Under the haunting glow of the full moon, a story unfolds, a story of passion, betrayal, and forbidden love. Dylan Matthews, once part of a family bound by love and loyalty, has been cast aside by the very person fate meant her to be with, the Alpha. The rejection is a devastating blow, one that shakes the very core of her being. But in a world where power is everything and love can be as dangerous as the moonlit shift itself, Dylan must navigate a path fraught with betrayal, pain, and heartache. Her journey begins as she embraces the powerful force within her, the werewolf shift that is both a gift and a curse. As she struggles to come to terms with her destiny, she finds herself drawn to a world of supernatural mysteries, where every secret is more dangerous than the last. The deeper she falls into this world, the more she realizes that the love she was denied may not be the only love that can save her. Will Dylan's heart heal from the scars of rejection, or will she find herself caught in a dangerous dance with her fate, forever torn between love and power? With forbidden love at every turn, the stakes are higher than ever. As the wolf inside her howls for revenge, Dylan must face the true meaning of loyalty, strength, and what it means to truly be free. If you're ready to immerse yourself in a world of passionate wolves, fated mates, and heart-stopping drama, then listen closely. This is just the beginning.
Prologue: Dylan's POV pain. The agony coursing down my body was nothing compared to breaking my arm after falling on it wrong on the trampoline. It felt like each tendon in my body was on fire and tearing apart and then coming back together again. Over and over again. And even though I was 6 years old, I knew exactly what I was going through. I was shifting, and if I judged the sight from my parents' faces, it wasn't a pretty view to be watching. The reason no one was expecting the shift was for one reason. Girls only shifted this young if their mate was a beta or alpha. My mom flinched into my father's shoulder every time a loud snap went through my body, and my body spazzed into weird, uncomfortable positions. Slowly, my body moved into a hunched dog position, seconds later, making me throw my head back into the sky. My eyes focused only on one thing, the crescent moon, my vision blackening everywhere except where it lay. The sound of the door sliding open was barely audible over my screams. After what seemed like hours, it was over, and I lay there for what seemed like a couple more. I stood up, testing the new world of being on 4 feet. Having more balance, I ran over to my brother PLA, fully nipped at his feet, and crouched low. He shifted into his wolf, mimicked my position, and crouched low. Charging at him as he only stood up, tackled me to the floor, licking my face in the process. Growling and squirming, I tried to push him off me, but he just stood up and watched me push the air. I jumped up, strategizing how I could win this game of play attack. Next thing I knew, Macy was at my heels, crouching low and nipping at them, joining in our playful fighting. Our parents stood there and watched us, smiling, a little pain still in their eyes. 6 months later, I had been running for a while, a white blur through the green woods, but eventually lay down. Thoughts of my sister and the alpha's son, Ryan, ran through my head. Ryan and I had become great friends, considering how close we were in age. Since we were the closest in age to those who had shifted, we roughhoused against each other many times. Suddenly, a snap of a branch breaking interrupted my thoughts. Jerking my snout up, I saw a man with a gun pointing it straight at me from a V-shaped tree, most likely a hunter who had ignored the signs that said no hunting in these parts. I growled in warning. Smirking, his hand tightened on the barrel of the gun, one eye narrowing into a slit, the other closing. A low growl behind him made him widen his eyes as my mom pushed him down to the ground. My father showed up seconds later, joining my mom in the fight. Shots rang and vibrated through the trees, carrying the echoes towards our pack, hopefully. Snarls rang from my parents' mouths, blood dripping from scrapes on their bodies. Silver lining covered their scrapes. The poison enters the bloodstream. The hunter was dead, but my parents hadn't got out of the fight easily either. Whimpering, my mother stumbled down onto the ground, my father following her. I shifted back to my human form and ran over to them while crying as they tried to tell me it would all be okay, but even at that age, I knew it wouldn't. There was too much silver and blood. The pack surrounded us, and my siblings came next to me and sobbed with me, but then, not before too long, my sister turned to me and yelled, "If you were never born, this would have never happened. You don't exist to me or Alex anymore, Dylan." And then she cried into my brother's shoulder, looking small and terrified. I stared at my brother hopefully, but he just glared at me. One of the elders picked me up once everyone had gone back to the pack house with the bodies and tried to comfort me on the way home. Little did I know that I would have been better if I had left and become a rogue. Chapter 1. In the 11 years since the accident, I have learned several things of great importance in this pack, if you were on the bottom. 1. Always obeys the other members, even if it's stupid and not a great idea. 2. Never input a comment. And 3. Just nod and do as they're told. Why, today of all days, I didn't use those things of advice. I have no clue. "Dylan, get down here right now," Alex yelled from the bottom floor. And under my nice, warm sheets, I let out a groan, not wanting to leave the comfort of my bed. If only I could stay like this forever, I mumbled to myself. Wouldn't have to deal with stupids, I added at the end. "Dylan, don't make me come up there." Alex once again yelled, probably hearing every word I muttered. "Stupid werewolf hearing," I mumbled under my breath. Stumbling lazily to my dresser, I grabbed a pair of long, baggy gray sweatpants with faded writing of Kinderson, the place my parents went for college, and a loose yellow shirt. Next, I grazed my feet on the bottom of the wood floors as I made my way to the mirror and tied my hair up into a ponytail. Sighing, I knew I couldn't stall any longer and went down the stairs to my hell. I looked around for the mess and eventually walked through the kitchen door to fall on my bottom. "Great," I thought to myself sarcastically before I heard laughing behind me. Turning my head slowly, I saw my sister standing there laughing at me with the rest of the pack. Once, everyone had their share of laughing except for me, who felt nothing funny about the situation from my standpoint. My brother came forward and slapped my face while saying, "You're supposed to clean it with a wet rag, not your clothes." Standing up while holding my cheek and feeling the sting of a bruise beginning to form, I turned to go upstairs when a voice that I knew very well sadly said, "Just do it now and get dressed later in your own time. Chores first, then your personal needs." I turned my head to stare at my future alpha, Ryan Williams, or as I like to call him, King of Jerks. He's one of those alpha boys who are arrogant, cocky, and popular boys who think they're better than everyone else. We had played when we were both young and before the incident. It was like something out of a story. Old friends grow to hate one another. It was stupid. "You might fall again, anyway," he added, a wide chagrined smirk laying on his face. This, of course, brought a new round of laughter up while I fought the urge to glare into his eyes or say hilarious to his face. Not responding, I went to the kitchen and got a rag wet to clean the mess of apple juice. Running upstairs, I got changed, but not quick enough to catch a ride with my brother. The honk of a car while I was going downstairs told me. Not that I really wanted to go with my brother, Ryan, and Ryan's girl toy for the week. I walked through the forest, loving the feeling of being surrounded by nature. As soon as I got to school, I walked to my locker and grabbed my first period book, math. I waited in the halls for the bell to ring for class by myself since I had no friends in this town. Everyone was scared of the wrath of the popular, but that wasn't a good excuse to me. It just showed that they were followers, not leaders. Angie walking to class. I bumped into someone and sparks flew. I turned my head, hopefully and happily, to see Ryan looking at me, confused, happy, and then disgusted. "Mate," the wolf said. Mate, I asked my wolf, but accidentally said it out loud, so I was interrupted by the werewolves with him, including my siblings, who were crying with laughter. Ryan looked down at me and replied, Me? Be mates with you? That's hilarious, Dash. Every word was like a knife stabbed in my heart, Dylan. Are you even listening to me? I looked at him with astonishment at his tone. What? It was like he was speaking to a child who had the attention span of a fly, and I was that child. He looked up at the sky and then rubbed his eyes before replying, Even if you were my mate, I would reject you. Looking back on this moment, I'm quite sure my face even showed my heart being ripped out of my chest. Crying, I mumbled out, "You're rejecting me?" "Yes, I am. Dylan Torrey Matthews, I reject you as a mate," he said with a smirk plastered on his face. Taking in a deep breath, I thought it through. If I accept the rejection, then the sparks and everything will go away in 4 years. But if I don't, he could change his mind and we'll be together. "Accept it now," my wolf yelled in my mind. My wolf didn't like being humiliated or anything else that was horrible, so she was always bursting in my head, making it feel like it was about to explode. I, Dylan Torrey Matthews, accept the rejection, and with that said, I turned around and ran, with all the strength I could muster, back to the pack house. When I went through the front doors, the current Alpha Williams, was leaning on the living room door. He looked over at the sound of the door opening and said, "I'm sorry about my son. He's not the brightest, and he doesn't think things through." Alpha Williams was always nice to me and was the one to carry me home after everyone had brought the bodies back to the house. He always tried to stop the mistreatment that everyone gave me, but there was only so much that he could do. Even if he was the Alpha, the future Alpha hated me, so the pack did too. I gave him a questioning look, thinking that the news couldn't already be here. He tapped his head, and I hit my head with my hand. "Mind link, Dylan. Mind link." "Well, then, I guess you know that I'm leaving the pack." I started walking up the stairs while he just smiled sadly and replied, "I have known for many years that you would leave this pack, maybe not for rejection, but because of your wolf bursting in your head." I stopped and turned around. "How did you know about my wolf?" He smiled and replied, "The way you would always rub your temples after being humiliated or something else, and the way your eyes would move, but not be really focused on anything." "Oh," was all I could muster up. He just chuckled and walked into the living room, but not before giving me a quick hug and a duffel bag with $1,000. Making sure my mind link was closed, I packed all the clothes I would need for a couple of days, knowing I would just buy new ones that actually fit and were not hand-me-downs. Adding the money that I had saved from various jobs with other teens and adults, and the money that I had gotten from mom and dad, I made a total of $18,453. I wrote a quick note for my siblings that said, "Dear Pack, none of you wanted me here except Alpha Williams. After everything, I don't feel sorry for any of you who mistreated me, and I know karma will catch up with you. I hate every single one of you and will never forgive any of you. Alex and Macy, let's just put it like this. I hope you rot in hell. Ryan, every day I felt sorry for whoever your mate would be, that the fates would be cruel to put someone with you. I hoped that she would change you, but I was put with you. I think it was just a way to tell me that my future will be filled with good karma. I hope I never have to see you again, and if I do, I will act like you are just a stranger with whom I will never have anything but enemies." Dylan grinning, I went into the kitchen and grabbed some food, not worrying about running into anybody because either you were an adult at work, a kid at school, or a baby at the werewolf daycare on our grounds, not including Alpha Williams. I shifted into my white wolf, which had lost too much weight. My ribcage stuck out along with my hip bones. I started running, knowing that the hours to come would be restless. Well, at least I don't have to live there for another day, I thought to myself. My wolf smirked in my head and replied, "I feel sorry for you. You were not able to change him." I met his wolf for a minute, and he was not nearly as bad. He was actually perfect, compared to that mate, if you can call him that. She spat out the last part about mate with hatred. I smiled, knowing that as long as I had my wolf, I would be okay. Chapter 2 Dylan's POV running for 3 hours really takes a toll on your body. Surprisingly, I know, but jumping over all those logs and avoiding trees could tire one out to the point of fainting from exhaustion. Another surprise, they're just coming left and right. Passing across the pack line, I had broken my mind link, which caused a tingle to run through my entire body. Adrenaline, my wolf told me. Usually, because you have outrun other wolves who are sent to kill you, that's just dandy and great, I had thought at that moment, but all of the adrenaline had coursed through my body, making me agile, fast, and flexible. Lying down next to a mossy pond surrounded by a circle of trees, I drifted off into a shallow slumber. A snap awoke me from my slumber, making my body jump onto all fours and observe my surroundings. Slowly, a wolf came out of the trees to my right, ears pinned to the back of his head and teeth bared in an unpleasant expression. He was extremely big, even for a wolf, with his hair standing up in intimidation. The intimidation was obviously working as I inched backwards, my legs going into the slimy, gross pond. 2 wolves joined him, making a triangle, both about the same size and barely smaller than the first one. A large gulp ran down my throat as I realized exactly what I had walked myself into. A pack. Pinning my ears back and lowering my head, I hoped they would let me go off with just a snarl and a bite to my ankles. The alpha, or the first one, narrowed his eyes in wariness before strolling to the bag that lay a couple of feet ahead of me. His eyes stayed trained on me, his muscles tense in case he had to attack me. Picking up one of his paws, I cringed back and lowered myself even farther, my snout grazing the water. Continuing with his action, he pawed my bag to signal for me to change. That way, they could interrogate me in human form with questions. He slowly inched backwards to the other 2, watching with me the intensity of protectiveness for his pack. Creeping out of the water, I grabbed my bag with my teeth and barely into the forest line before dropping it on the ground. Shifting quickly, I pulled a pair of old sweats and an old t-shirt onto me. Soon before they came looking for me, I stepped back into the open area, my eyes searching for any crouched bodies awaiting to attack me. In a place where the 3 wolves had stood, now stood 3 men with just the same amount of intimidation. They all wore khaki shorts that seemed to pop out of nowhere. Looking at each other, I could tell they were talking in their minds, probably deciding whether or not I should be killed. Shifting from foot to foot, I waited impatiently, wanting them to just decide quickly and get it over with. Finally, looking at me, the tallest of the group who spoke. "I'm Alpha Peters. You crossed my land and other ones, and we got calls about a white wolf rogue who ran at a lightning rate through their territories. Is that you?" Unconsciously, I took my tongue out, thinking about his question. The possibility of it being me was very high, considering the adrenaline I had had. Probably, I told him, cringing at the thoughts of what might happen after I uttered that single word. Would I be killed on the spot? "Why, you stuck your tongue out and bit it. And? How's it funny?" I asked immediately, a blush forming on my cheeks at the stupid act I had done. Stupid tongue. They all looked at me like I had grown a second head and replied, "How's it not?" I blinked my eyes a couple of times, thinking that I had run into 3 crazy guys. I mean, here I was, a rogue, for crying out loud. And they were joking around like I was no threat to them. "Because you're not," my wolf mumbled in my brain. "Traitor." Okay, whatever, anyway. Why is it important if I'm the white wolf? Their faces became all serious, and the beta replied, "The rogue ran through territories quicker than any other wolf. And by the description, it would be you. Skinny, white wolf, and a pink duffel bag." I sighed in relief. My pack was not looking for me, but the next question made me flinch. "Why are you running anyway?" I looked at them all, deciding whether or not I should tell them. A minute later, I had come up with my answer. I would. It's not likely that my pack would look in Louisiana for me, if they did look for me, that is. It also might save my life, considering I wasn't holding back any information from them. Telling them my whole life story, I talked about how my parents died, and I was blamed for it, how I found my mate, but he rejected me, and lastly, how I ran away from home. After everything I had told them, they had only one question: which pack had I come from? I told them, not even hesitating, because the whole time I told them my story, they didn't laugh, smirk, or anything that made me think they were like my pack. Instead, they clenched their hands and shook, showing their anger. I trusted them surprisingly. It had been a while since I had trusted more than one person. They all looked at each other again, while I just waited patiently this time. Once they were done talking, they would probably tell me what they were thinking about. After a while, the alpha turned to me, holding a smile back, and said, "After listening to your story, we've decided to let you enter our pack, the Lemaine." I would be glad to join, I told them, not hesitating or thinking about my choices. Relief flowed through my body, massaging each tense muscle until it relaxed. The alpha joined me in the pack link while we walked to the pack house. They made me laugh out loud the whole way. I learned that the alpha was called Kyle, the beta was called Cole, and the third in command was Nathan. We all became best friends instantly, which was an actual surprise for me, considering how long it had been since I'd had one. As soon as we had gotten to the pack house, Nathan introduced me to everyone while tickling me at the same time, making me look like a lunatic to the whole pack. I learned that the alpha had a wonderful mate named Kate, Cole had a mate whose name was Darlin, and Nathan lost his mate to rogues years ago. Darlin brought me to my room and helped me unpack my belongings. Beautiful red curly hair framed her face, tousling in wild directions. My hands itched to play with it and try to possibly tame it a little. I quickly learned she was from Texas, but found Cole when he came to help her pack with hunters. They had fallen in love instantly. Wishing it had been like that for me, I gave her a small smile, happy for her but sad about what I had missed out on. Alpha Kyle had told the pack my story, so I wouldn't have to, thankfully, and I could tell they felt pity for me, but knew not to say anything about it, which was perfect for me since I wanted them to know but didn't want to actually talk about it. I explored the house, and it had so many rooms that eventually, I just asked Darlin and Kate how many rooms there were. Not including the bedrooms and bathrooms, there were 56 rooms, ranging from a karaoke room to a ballroom. I stood there stunned for a while, amazed that anyone could be so rich. The girls that night lay on my bed, planning out our shopping trip for new clothes. After we had dinner, we watched some movies. When Thor ended, I went upstairs to sleep and did so as soon as my head touched the pillow. Chapter 3: Spending 3 hours in a mall, trying on clothes, using public toilets, trying on more clothes, buying those clothes, eating at the food court, and trying on even more clothes was not at the top of my bucket list. Surprisingly, I know, but the eating part wasn't too bad, besides the teenage boys who used cheap pickup lines on us and then tried to put their arms around us. Yeah, that was just plain annoying. "You like fresh poop because you're as hot as it gets," one of them had told me, smiling cockily like he was some great mastermind who had figured out what every beauty pageant wished for. World peace. In response, I stared at him and then patted his head robotically before turning back around. Now, I was just getting out of every store all people in the universe loved, the Disney store. Darlin and Kate rolled their eyes and gave each other knowing glances as I ran into the store full of excitement. No, I screamed and tried to pull my arms out of their grasp, but I couldn't. Darlin and Kate laughed and pulled me into another store. I looked around and saw Nathan leaning against a wall, laughing at the scene. "Nathan, save me, please," I asked him and gave him puppy dog eyes. He stopped laughing, sighed, and shook his head while walking over. "You owe me." He pried me out of their arms and dragged me to his car. "Thank you, thank you, thank you," I said while hugging him to death. "Yo, you are WELLCM. I need to breathe, Dylan," he replied through short breaths. I laughed and let go, smiling widely. He patted my head and opened the door for me while bowing with his arm out gracefully. I hit his arm and climbed into his car. I can just feel the gratitude oozing from that hit, Nathan told me, sarcasm lacing in his tone. "Yup. I'm sure it did," I told him, bouncing up and down in the seat as we drove away from the mall, and two girls running after us in an attempt to catch up. Rolling down the window, I stuck my head out, which took several tries, the first ones giving me a bump on my head and making loud thumps. "Losers," I yelled towards Kate and Darlin, who were slowly becoming farther and farther away. Sticking my tongue out at them wasn't the best idea to do in a moving car. In a parking lot, where speed bumps are frequent, just as we went over, one of my teeth clamped down on my tongue, making me whip back into the car, causing another greeting with the car door and my head. Rubbing both my tongue and head, I sent a glare to Nathan, who was holding back a smile and laughter. 2 years later, sighing, I looked around at our surroundings. The pack and I were on a mission to see where the rogue wolves were, and we were in the trees searching the ground from above. Each person in the pack was a master in at least one thing, and I was a master in knives, hand-to-hand combat, and guns. Hearing twigs breaking snapped me out of my thoughts, and I watched the area from where the sound came from with a knife twirling around my fingers. A small sandy-colored wolf came into view, and I looked at Alpha Kyle to see what he wanted me to do, but he stared at the wolf like he recognized who it was. He jumped off the branch in front of it. I did the same and watched the wolf go into a defensive position. Alpha Kyle held out his hand like he wanted to touch her, snapping his hand back quickly as the air had burned it. Dylan, go help Beta Cole continue the mission. Tell him that I'll be there soon. I shifted from foot to foot, asking, "Are you sure, Alpha?" He smiled and replied, "Yes." I crept back slowly and climbed back to my position next to Cole. I was third in command of the pack and was the best at training new wolves. I told Cole what Kyle said to do, and we continued the mission. It was a while before we found the site of the wolves. I looked at Cole to see what he wanted to do, and he motioned for me to jump down and talk to them. I jumped down and landed gracefully. I took one of my knives out and walked toward the rogues. They all stood in a defensive position as I walked to the leader among them. He was standing in the middle of the site and was watching me warily. "What do you want?" he asked rudely. I gasped and replied sarcastically, "Did your mother never teach you how to speak to a girl?" He growled at me and asked again, "What do you want?" I smiled and replied, "Better, but I didn't come here to teach you how to speak to a girl nicely, as you probably know. The Lemaine pack was assigned to watch you rogues and make sure you didn't attack any packs." I had picked up some words from Darlin, as you can see. He growled and replied, "The council is going to let us become a pack soon. We don't need to be watched." I laughed and replied, "The council is the one who hired us. They want to make sure you rogues can be trusted." He sighed and waved his hands as if to shoo me away. I let out a smile and asked, "Are you trying to shoo me away?" He looked over at me, answering, "Yes. Is it not obvious?" I laughed, turned around, and looked for a tree to watch them from. Once I found one, I made my way over to it. While they watched me, I climbed up it and lay down on one of the branches. I felt someone standing under the tree and saw the leader. "Yes, can I help you?" I asked, as if this tree were my home. "What are you doing?" he asked me, glaring. I looked down at him and moved so my legs were dangling off the branches while replying, "Relaxing while watching you." He glared at me more intensely from where he was standing. I smiled widely while saying, "From this height, your glare doesn't scare me." He growled while looking around. Eventually, I just lay back down and closed my eyes. "How about now?" I opened it to see the leader in the tree glaring at me with his face right in front of mine. I slapped his face and turned to my side and replied, "Nope." I looked over at him to see him pouting and laughed a little. He looked over at me and frowned while pouting. I laughed harder and placed my hand out while saying, "My name is Dylan." Chapter 4. I stood at attention, waiting for the contract to be signed for the new pack. Several pokes into my stomach made me twinge with ticklish feelings that traveled their way through my body. Another poke made a tiny frown appear on my face, trying to hold the laughter in. Poke. I was going to kill Cole when this ended. I told the Night Mother, who was probably watching this whole scene being played out with a smile. Catching the hand that was about to poke me again, I squeezed a little and let go when I felt a small crack in the bones. Smiling, I paid attention to all the windows and doors, watching for any signs of a rogue. We had been assigned to watch over the council as they decreed that there was a new pack, the Red Willow pack, the rogues I had been watching earlier. The contract that decreed them as a pack was handed to the new Alpha, Jake. who was as whiny as a 3-year-old on the inside. Laughing in my mind at the time when he tried to splash cold water on my face, but somehow ended up with it on his own, I relaxed from my position. Cole, I addressed Cole, who was trying to slink away from me before being killed by me. Where do you think you're going? I turned to face Cole, who was grinning sheepishly at me. Oh, just that he paused, thinking of where he was going, the bathroom. The sight of the emotion swimming across his face let me know that he had gone with his gut instinct. An instinct I wouldn't trust with my life, my wolf told me. It had been 3 years since I had been rejected by Ryan, and the pain was slowly disintegrating, and so far, she was taking it well. I waved my palm for him to come closer to me. He slowly dragged his feet next to me as if a kid who knew he was about to be punished. Good, I thought to myself, just as I whacked him across the head. Don't tickle me while we're at attention, lunatic. He nodded at me, but I knew he wasn't taking any of this to heart and that it would happen again. I walked away with my hands twitching to strangle him to death. No, Dylan, that's not nice, Alpha Kyle told me, chuckling. So? Who told you I was nice? I asked, smiling. Dylan, don't kill Cole, Kyle told me in a condescending tone. Not even a little? I could feel him groan, thinking that he was dealing with a bunch of pups. No, not even a little, Dylan. Delete. I played across the couch with my legs splayed on Nathan and Cole, watching The Lion King. My legs bounced and beat with the rhythm of, I just can't wait to be king, on Nathan's lap mostly. He grabbed them and pushed them down, glaring at me from what I could see with my peripheral vision. Letting my feet go, he turned his attention back to the movie. A smile graced my lips as my legs resumed bouncing on Nathan. Dylan, don't do that, Nathan told me, turning back to face me again. My head slowly turned towards him, popping in popcorn, and I bent one of my knees and let it bounce one more time. Glaring, he got onto his knees while still being on the couch, picked me up, scooted over, and then placed my head down on his lap. A wider grin played on my lips as I made my head bounce to the beat. Groaning, Nathan held my head down on his thigh and turned it to face the TV. No, bad Dylan, he scolded me. He kept his hands on my head, but eventually relaxed them and played with my hair soothingly. Cole scrunched into his corner with a smirk at us, but didn't say anything, with my feet dangerously close to a private part of his. I lifted one of my feet anyway, but he pushed it down quickly, not thinking it all the way through, and hurt himself. Popping in another popcorn flake, I watched the rest of my movie with an innocent, wide-eyed expression. Just after the movie ended, Kyle walked in and turned off the TV. We have an assignment given by the Royal Werewolves. Pack for at least 3 months. We're going to Florida. His eyes met mine at the last part, a glance of sympathy flashing through his eyes. What pack? I asked him, but I already had a good idea of which one from his action. A feeling of disgust entered my stomach, and I was not going to be relieved until I heard his answer, which was taking a while to come. Gulping, he looked out the window before turning his eyes back to me, the Argyra pack. They've seen a large number of rogues settle down nearby, and they need help. Groaning, I rolled into Nathan's stomach and muffled out a, Do I have to go? Please say no, Kyle. Please. He told me grimly, No, we need you. I'm sorry. He left the room to pack and say to the pack about the assignment. I don't want to go, Nathan, I told him, trying to nestle into his stomach. He picked my waist up and sat me down on his lap, hugging me. I'll go this time. Will that make you feel better? Pouting, I nodded, knowing that I had no choice on whether or not I would go, but with Nathan being there, I would feel a lot better. Go pack, we'll probably be leaving tomorrow. You know how Kyle is. He likes to get there as soon as possible. Obeying, I stood up and got off his lap, heading towards the stairs and then to my room. Delete, I can't believe you have to go back there, Darlin told me while Kate nodded in agreement. Kate and Darlin gave me a big hug, and I hugged back, tempted not to let go and just stay here. You just make sure you come back to us, okay, hon? I nodded, telling them that I would be back as soon as possible. "We'll miss you," a teary-eyed Kate told me as Kyle gave her a hug and then a kiss. Cole walked out and stared at them before letting out an EW, "Leave that for the bedroom, please," laughing. I watched as Darlin walked over to him, and then he did the same as Kyle did. "Ew, leave that for the bedroom, Cole," Nathan mimicked behind me, making me giggle at the two of them. Nathan rolled his eyes and pulled me to his car and into the passenger seat. "You're riding with me," he said, giving me no choice. Shrugging, I slipped on his seat belt and waited for us to leave for Florida. The urge to jump out of the car was at the highest point of temptation possible. "The sooner we get there, the sooner we can leave," my wolf told me. I nodded my head in agreement as we peeled out of the driveway and onto 462 Country Road. Chapter 5. Nathan, can we turn around? I asked him, hopeful for a yes. He glanced over at me for a second before replying. "Why? Did you leave something?" Sinking in my seat, I knew what his answer would be. "No, I just don't want to go," I groaned, hoping that I would somehow melt into the seat and stay there until we got back home. "No, Dylan, you have to go. You're third in command, and that means you train them. You know this. Cole will be helping you train them since he's beta, and Kyle will come up with strategies since he's alpha," Nathan told me softly. "Therefore, we need you." "Sorry," he added a minute later. Reaching into the back seat, I grabbed my Lion King pillow pet and plumped my head down on it. "At least I have you, Simba," I told him. I saw Nathan roll his eyes at me while I rambled on about how great and helpful Simba was. "Dylan, that is an inanimate object you're talking to." "It's not alive," Nathan said 30 minutes later while I was still rambling. I gasped and covered Simba's ears. "How could you say such a thing? It's like saying Santa isn't real." Nathan's eyes widened. "You think Santa is real? No one told you." I smiled. "Of course, I know Santa isn't real, baboon. But Simba is real, and he is also my pillow right now." "I don't see you offering to be my pillow." Nathan turned his head toward me, pouting. "You're so mean. And I was your pillow yesterday." My face was emotionless as I shrugged. "Hakuna Matata." Nathan stared at me like I was crazy. "It means don't live in the past," I defined it for him. Nathan looked at the steering wheel and then back at the road, groaning. "I know what it means, Dylan. I watched the movie yesterday with you." You looked confused. "Not my fault," I replied. "What are y'all talking about now?" Kyle asked us in our heads. I replied first about how Simba is real and the definition of Hakuna Matata, and how Nathan isn't offering to be my pillow. Nathan eyed me from his seat with a glare before adding his side of the story. "I was her pillow yesterday, and she made me think that she thought that Santa was real." "Kyle, please save me from Dylan. She's officially gone crazy." "Oh, you didn't know?" "That bus already took off a long time ago," I told him, staring out the window as some familiar landmarks appeared. "Okay, you two have fun with that," Kyle said, hurrying to get away from our heads, and then blocked the link so we couldn't contact him. "Where are we?" I asked Nathan, already having a good idea where it was though. Nathan glanced at me worriedly while replying, "We're only 5 miles from the pack." "Are you okay?" Not even throwing in a pause, I replied instantly, "Not really, but I'll be good once we leave." He nodded his head in understanding and placed his hand on my knee. I stared at the hand, wondering what he was doing. Was he making a move on me? Is he comforting me? What is he doing? His thumb started drawing soothing circles, and I hugged the arm, deciding that it didn't matter. Either way, it was comforting to know that he was here for me. The car's tires hit a dirt road, and I bounced in my seat from the bumps. Nathan kept his hand there on my leg and followed Kyle to the house. Once we parked in front of the pack house, Nathan climbed out and walked over to Kyle. I sat there remembering all the horrible memories at this place. Most of them deal with Ryan. Sighing, I slowly climbed out of the car with Simba and stood next to Nathan. He wrapped an arm around my shoulder and squeezed me closer, giving me a weird side hug. "You're weird," I told him as if it was nothing. The squeezing stopped, and so did my leaning with it. "What do you mean I'm weird?" "I'm not weird, honey. You're weird." I nodded my head with my lips curled in, uh-huh. You keep telling yourself that, doll. He frowned and ran his arm through my hair, messing it up. Hey, now I have to put it up, I told him, whining like the child I was inside. He rolled his eyes, which made me come up with an idea, and he rolled his eyes a lot. Maybe he has a problem. Yeah, no, Dylan, plan. Focus on the plan. I took my hair tie off my wrist and held it out to Nathan. Put my hair up, Nathan. And put it up nicely. Nathan stared at the hair tie before grabbing it and obeying my command. He knows so well, my wolf told me. I could sense her pain at being close to her mate due to the rejection. Only 4 more months, I whispered to her. For months, and there would be no bond. It would be like he never existed in my life. Come on, guys, we should go meet them. We're all here, right? Dylan, count and see if the 15 people are here. Nathan and everyone else start unpacking, except Cole. Cole, come with me. We'll go ask where we're staying. Dylan, once you're done counting, I would like it if you joined Cole and me. We all did as we were told, and I counted the heads that quickly moved to the cars to unpack. 15. We're all here, I whispered before turning to the pack house doors that were closed from the entrance of my alpha and beta. I climbed up the steps quickly and opened the door, slipping in through the crack I had pushed. Kyle and Cole were a couple of steps ahead of me, and I walked quickly to catch up. We're all here, Alpha, I told Kyle, surveying the house. Thank you, Dylan, he responded. So where are they? Cole asked, referring to the empty hallways. I glanced at my watch. 2:32, practicing in the back if they kept their same schedule. They should be almost done. It usually ends at 2:40. Kyle and Cole nodded their heads and leaned against the wall, sighing. You would think they would stop early to greet us, Cole said out loud. We're early, but they should have been able to smell us. Dylan, will you lead us to the back? Kyle asked. I nodded in agreement and headed down a hallway that led to the practice fields. When we got to the door, it opened, revealing my old pack. They're sweaty, my wolf told me, trying to find something to take her mind off of Ryan. I smiled slightly and crept to the left of Kyle, where I was supposed to be. At the front of the pack stood Ryan, wearing no shirt and looking stunned. You found your way through our house? Good job. Most people get lost, he told us, not recognizing me yet. Cole opened his mouth to say something, but I allowed him to keep quiet. I didn't want my mate to know I was here. The longer he didn't know, the better. This is my beta and third in command. I'm Alpha Kyle, Kyle introduced us. Cole shifted his weight upon his feet, still stretching from the long car ride. I'm Alpha Ryan, Ryan replied and reached out his hand. Kyle took it and shook it, squeezing it a little too hard from what I could see in Ryan's grimace. Ryan took his hand back and massaged it behind him. Where is your beta? Cole asked curiously. Beta, who should be the beta? I asked myself, thinking of the person's name. Derek, my wolf, told me, searching the crowd for him. Oh, Derek! Ryan yelled, turning around. I watched as Derek pushed through the crowd and made his way to Ryan. Hey, I'm Derek, the beta, Derek said, friendly and waving. I didn't like him when I lived here. He didn't do anything to me or bully me like the others, but he was always watching and saying nothing when it happened. Kyle glanced at Derek and nodded. Where are we staying? Oh, in the guest house outside. It has 8 rooms. Is that okay? Ryan told us. Kyle nodded, probably deciding who would have to sleep together in the same room. Having to share a room meant no privacy, which also meant I would drive that person crazy. Poor person. Okay, let's go unpack. We'll strategize later, Ryan, Kyle said, and then linked us after you take a shower. A giggle escaped my lips at what he said, and Cole tickled my sides as we walked down the halls. I'm surprised he didn't recognize you, Dylan, Kyle told me. I shrugged, not really caring. I would be happy if this lasted. I voiced my thoughts, and they both nodded, understanding my point of view on the situation. And he probably already has a mate in mind when our bond ends in 4 months. He doesn't care about me. I ended my thoughts. We walked out the doors, and a burst of cold wind greeted us. I hugged Simba, who was still in my arms. Cole glanced at it, and then right back at it. You brought that inside? Yeah, he's my pillow and my pet. Of course, I would bring him. I replied like it was the most normal thing to do. The third in command is holding a pillow pet and bringing it around with them. Who wouldn't do that? Cole shook his head, probably thinking I was crazy. That bus already departed a long time ago, I told him, and walked to Nathan, who was holding my things. I hope that's what he was thinking, my wolf told me. Well, if he wasn't, he certainly was now. Chapter 6, okay, listen up, Kyle yelled. We all stopped unpacking the cars and sorting them for what belonged to whom, turning our attention to him. I will be telling you who your roommate is for the mission. Nathan and Cole. Christy and Dylan. Jackie and Kylie. Jace. I stopped listening after that and walked to stand next to Christy. Hey, roomie. Christy smiled at me, being friendly as usual. I elbowed her, smiling. Hey. Giggling, she picked up her stuff, and I did the same. We were waiting for someone to escort us to the house when my sister walked out, a boy following behind her like a lost mutt. That's Macy, I whispered as Nathan and Cole walked up behind me. They glanced at her exposed legs and bare midriff, grimacing. Who would want to see her belly button? Cole asked, staring at the sky. Wait till she gets her mate. He'll be ecstatic, I whispered back with sarcasm, soaking my words. Her brown wavy hair was curled tightly, and her face had natural makeup, excluding the dark eyeliner that emphasized her blue eyes. She was wearing a shirt designed for high-waisted bottoms, but it was paired with low-rise shorts. Surprisingly, they weren't too short, just trashy with that top. Nathan nodded in agreement before turning to Christy. Where's your twin? He stole my pillow again. Christy smiled, amused, and pointed over where Jake stood talking to Jace, right next to his roommate. It's scary how their names are only a one-letter difference. I nodded my head and surveyed the healthy greenwood with shrubs growing randomly. Looks like the perfect area for a run, Kyle said, popping out of nowhere. It is, I told him, remembering the times I had taken a run in it to cool off. Hello? I'm here to take you to the guest house, Macy said from the steps, looking annoyed. The mutt behind her studied us with intelligent eyes, watching our every mood. Show the way, Macy, I yelled at her before hitting my forehead for saying her name. She glared in my direction, looking for the person who knew her name. Narrowing her eyes even more, she pivoted around and flipped her hair, walking toward the right of the pack house. We followed and settled into our rooms. Hey, you, a voice called. Glancing behind me, I saw Macy staring at me and walking my way. I walked faster to my room with Christy, my arms full of the Skittles I had been sent to get in Nathan's car. Not that he knew I took it. The room was 3 feet away when a hand stopped my shoulder. I turned around, face to face with Macy. I looked her over, pretending that I had no idea why she stopped me, saying, "What?" She took her hand off my shoulder, popped her hip out, cocked her head, and stared at me. "Aren't you going to say hello?" she asks. "Why would I?" I asked with disgust, narrowing my eyes. "Cut the act, Dylan. I know it's you." I gave her a look of confusion before turning towards my room. My hand inched towards the doorknob quickly, hoping that she had given up and thought she had grabbed the wrong girl. Dylan, her voice filled with sorrow and pain, stopped me. Biting my lip with my hand stretched out towards the knob, I considered my actions. 1. Go into my room and act as a stranger. 2. Listen to what she's going to tell me. My body shifted in contemplation, and right when I was about to turn around, another voice stopped me. "Macy, babe, let's go home." The voice sent shivers of pleasure down my spine, but when my brain comprehended what he said, they turned into disgust quickly. My hand snaked the rest of the way to the door quickly and pulled it open, granting me entrance to my assigned room. I slammed the door quickly in the faces of Macy, my sister, and Ryan, my mate, who I wanted to drown in the overfilled manure toilet. Manure from a cow. Christy looked up quickly from the bed with a grimace. She tapped her ears and pointed to the door. I rolled my eyes and sighed, listening to the conversation that was happening outside my door. Ryan, go away. I was trying to talk with Dill Dash. She stopped abruptly, and the sounds of smacks from kisses made me back away from the door and shut off my hearing. That was disgusting. Why did you want me to listen to that? She glanced at me before patting the spot beside her and continuing to flip through her magazine from Vogue. I just wanted you to know that. She paused in both her words and reading. Her head whipped up quickly towards the door, eyes widened in shock and fear. Not real fear, of course, but shock. Yeah, shock. Nathan's on his way in, she said quickly, her head whipping to face me. My face turned into one of confusion until she gave a pointed look at the Skittles. I jumped up and glanced around the room quickly for a spot to hide them. The twist of our doorknob sent me flipping the covers up and me under them. My bottom is lying on our Skittles. Nathan entered the room with Kyle and Cole, a knowing look on all their faces. Cole surveyed the room quickly, looking like a chipmunk who knew there were acorns to stuff his mouth within the room. Kyle just stared at us, as if we would give away where we put them. Nathan started walking to my side of the bed, glancing at the covers. My bottom shifted, making sure that I was covering them. Stop, Christy yelled, jumping up and tackling Cole from behind, who was going through her underwear drawer. Police. Like I haven't seen what fills them, he said, continuing his search. Christy's cheeks turned a bright red, and she whacked him across the head. Bad boy. I told you not to look when I lost my clothes on the last mission. Bad boy. Cole's head cowered into his neck while Nathan ripped up the covers from my body. My eyes and attention turned to him, trying to sink further into the bed with the Skittles. His eyes studied the bed quickly, looking for my Skittles. I kicked him, trying to make him move away from me and drop the covers. Go away. I'm cold, and I need my covers. Drop them, I whined at him, adding a shiver to the act. Once you tell me where the Skittles are, I'll drop them, easy as that. His eyes bored into mine. In my peripheral vision, I saw Christy's head whip around to face us. Don't do it, Dylan, she yelled, making me believe that she thought I was an idiot. I pulled Nathan on top of me, the covers coming with it. I got my covers back. It's okay, I whispered into his ear, which was close to my mouth. His head shivered a couple of times when my mouth skimmed across his ears. And Nathan, I said, getting closer to his ear, well aware that all the eyes in the room were staring at me with disbelief, my Skittles. I jumped up, holding the Skittles above my head, standing on the bed with Nathan on the floor. His eyes whipped to them quickly, and I picture his mouth watering with one of my Skittles. I moved my Skittles to my breast, hugging them as if they were my pup, and glared at the boys in the room who were inching closer to me. Christy waved her arms frantically, making my arms stance into a quarterback position. I threw the Skittles towards her and ran after them. Running out the door, both of us rushed past Ryan, who was sitting on a bar stool in the guest house. Weird. I continued running, hearing the loud footsteps that were not Christy's light feet catching up to me. I ran out the door, passing by Jake, who was lying on the couch watching Finding Nemo. I bit into a corner of the Skittles bag to hold onto them and shifted into my wolf. I glanced behind me for Christy but found Jake, who had jumped off the couch for Skittles, Nathan, Cole, and Kyle. I bolted into the woods, leaving Christy to fend for herself when she showed herself. I ran on my 4 furry legs through the woods, just trying to get away from the boys. A howl let me know they were on my trail and chasing me and my Skittles. I surveyed the area I had run to. There was a cave, trees, a rabbit bouncing on his hind feet, cautious at my appearance, and a pile of grass that led to a large burrow. Several paws made me choose where to hide with the Skittles, burrow, definitely the burrow. I crawled into the burrow, the Skittles swinging in my mouth. A squeak let me know that a small animal had taken shelter here, too. I lay down with the Skittles under my paw and watched for any movements from the animal. "Dylan, come out of the burrow," Call said from behind me. I twisted my neck to see him and growled at him, trying to keep the Skittles hidden. He rolled his eyes at me, not taking my threats seriously. "Don't make me stick Nathan on you." I looked around the burrow that I would have to crawl out of. I held onto my Skittles, saying I have no clothes. "Dylan, I've seen you many times before on our missions. Now come on out." Sighing, I crawled out to join my fellow naked pack members. I tightened my hold on my Skittles when Cole started staring at them. Mine, I growled at him with teeth bared, hugging the bag as close as I could, shielding it from view in the process. "You can share," Cole whined, pouting as he inched closer. I shook my head and put the space back between us by stepping backwards closer to Nathan. "Kyle, tell her to share," Cole whined, turning towards him. "No, I'm not sharing. I went and bought them. Mine and Christy's," I yelled at them all. I glanced behind me when the crunch of leaves signaled Nathan to get closer. He smiled cheesily at me and held out his hands like he wanted to hug me. I stared at him warily and cautiously, ready to run at any sign of him grabbing my precious Skittles. "Share, Dylan." "You need to share," Nathan told me like he was speaking to a child who didn't want to share her toy. "No," I pouted at him. A touch sent the bag of Skittles swinging, and I whacked the person in the face, Christy. "Oh, sorry, Christy." She held her face and glanced at me, and then stuck out her hand and waved for me to give the Skittles to her. "Now run." She bolted off into the woods, and I tried to follow her, but was picked up off the ground by Nathan. "No, my Skittles." "We're being separated." "Christy, run and hide them. They've got me." Sniffing at being separated, I wriggled in Nathan's arms, trying to get free. "So, Dylan, are you going to share when you see the Skittles again?" Cole asked, creeping towards me slowly. Chapter 7 Moaning. I turned away from the light that was streaming in through my window, hiding my eyes in Christy's back. I nudged her back with my head, nestling farther into it. "Dylan? What are you doing?" "That is my back, not a pillow," she told me, shifting back around on my nose. "I'm getting comfy." "You're my light blocker, congrats." "It is a great honor." She scoffed at me in response and slowly sat up, rubbing her eyes and yawning. Several pokes into my side from Christy told me that it was time to get up. "It's 5:30, Dylan. You need to get up and get ready." Like right now, she yawned, proving my interpretation of her pokes. Moaning, I sat up in my bed slowly and pushed my feet to the floor and covers to the side. Standing, I dragged my feet to my dresser and grabbed a sports bra and workout shorts. "Dylan, that's not gonna match," she scolded me, pointing at my clothes. I looked down at the lime green bra and purple and pink zebra-striped shorts. I shrugged my shoulders, not really caring, and continued my way to our bathroom. "You better hurry up, Christy," I yelled as I closed the door and started changing out of my pajamas. I ran my hair under the bathtub faucet once I had gotten changed, and then brushed out the mess of tangles. There is a knock on the door, and it opens, signaling to me that Christy is in there, too. "See, this matches," she said, holding up her pink and white zebra shorts and pink sports bra. "That does not," she added, pointing at my clothes. "It doesn't matter. The pack knows how I am and the people I'm training. I don't care what they think." "I'm comfy," I told her, setting down the brush and running my hand through my hair, styling it. Once I had it styled in a French braid, I swiped mascara onto my eyes. "I'm done. I'll see you downstairs and grab you a protein bar," I told Christy as I walked out of the bathroom and into the hallway. As I turned to go down the stairs, I saw Ryan about to walk down them. Sighing, I pushed down the pain seeping through my heart from our small bond. I strolled towards the stairs, giving him enough time to get down them before I rounded the turn to go down them as well. As my foot stepped down on the first step, I saw Ryan leaning against the wall, waiting for someone or something with a smirk. "Hey, I'm Alpha Ryan, but you can just call me Ryan," he said, holding out his hand for me to shake. My wolf purred in my head, wanting me to go and grab his hand. She definitely did not realize that he didn't know who we were and was hitting on us anyway. I looked him over and saw that he looked exactly the way I had left him, like the rejection had done nothing to him. Like it didn't happen. My wolf growled at the thought going through my head and agreed with it, snapping her out of her trance. Hi, but I don't touch people's hands, at least not my rejected mates, so I'm just gonna go around you now and go eat. You have fun with that hand pulled out towards the air. I'm sure your imaginary friend will love to shake it, hump it, whatever, I told him and jogged down the rest of the stairs and into the kitchen. I smiled at my own joke, trying to forget the burning pain caused by him as I walked into the pantry to grab 2 protein bars. Nathan jogged into the pantry to grab something and smiled once he saw me. Ruffling my hair, he caught something just above my head. Hey, Dylan. I see you woke up. Thanks for the Skittles yesterday, he said, grinning innocently, although I had never wanted to share. Those were mine, and you stole them. That's a crime. Just as bad as kidnapping in my book. Because those were my Skittles, I yelled at him as I walked out with 2 protein bars in hand. I watched as my pack laughed at our, well, as they put it, couple comedy show. Where they came up with the couple part, I have no idea. We're nothing like that, and we don't feel that way towards each other. At least, I don't think we do. Shrugging, I left the thought and started to unwrap my protein bar. Getting off that awkward subject, I glowered at our pack before throwing Christy's protein bar at her giggling face. She caught it with a yelp and smiled at me. Great couple comedy this morning, I love it. You two together are just too cute, she giggled at me like a romantic teen as we walked outside to where we would train the pack. We're not together, my mouth blurted, which I knew would make her think I was denying something, which would lead to lots of babbling. Great. Just great. I felt my wolf laugh and bark at me and the things I had to put up with. Great, now my wolf's laughing at me. Just another shenanigan in my shenanigan-filled life. No, Christy drew out. There's something going on between you two, isn't there? Why haven't you told me? She whined at me and continued on with lots of questions that I felt like I should just ignore and run away from. So I did. I followed my instinct and ran away from Christy and to the training yard. Her feet pounded after me with rhythmic beats. I pumped my arms like I was a track star so she might slow down, thinking about how weird I was. Hopefully she will. I know I'm crazy. I embrace it fully with no regrets. She didn't slow down, but a giggle behind me told me she could see me and that she was catching up. I let my arms become natural and quickened my stride to the yard. Trees blurred past me as I used my werewolf speed. The trees became brown blurs and the leaves became green ones. It looked like a photographer had moved their hand quickly while taking a picture, but smoother and clearer. Not so jagged. My feet touched the training yard's ground as I was sent tumbling down. A small weight lay on top of me as my face embraced the grass. Christy, get off. I mumbled into the ground, which probably sounded something like Wisty etoof. Yeah, it probably did from the giggles that were coming from Christy. What was that? Her question made me decide she deserved no mercy, so I jumped up and didn't warn her. A loud thump drew all of Ryan's pack's eyes to us. They stared at us, mostly at Christy, bewildered. I inched away from her sideways and tried to look innocent. I told you to get off, I whispered to Christy, who was lying down on the ground on her stomach with a scowl, not letting my eyes leave the bewildered one who was still watching us with confusion. That hurt, Dylan. You were on my couch and then jumped up. I don't want to be a couch. You weren't a couch. You were my couch. I don't want to be your couch either. Our arguing continued for several more minutes as Kyle and the rest of the pack arrived. You two can argue later. Kyle boomed at us. Right now, you need to train people. Get going. We scampered off and quickly separated the group of people. I made sure not to put Ryan or my siblings in my group. Get training, Kyle boomed, not even bothering to introduce us. I trained 20 people who were in poor physical shape by having them run around the boundary several times, do 50 push-ups, 80 sit-ups, and perform pallets, hand-to-hand combat, and wolf combat, with several water and restroom breaks. That took 6 hours, 2 more than it should have. Once all the groups were finished, we rounded them off to test them. Okay, now we will be doing combat, I yelled at the group. We already did combat training, though. Someone yelled from the crowd. Sighing, I massaged my forehead, training, yes. But now you will be tested against us. Don't worry, we won't go all out on y'all. I waited as Nathan explained what would happen. Okay, first one. The quicker you get tested, the quicker you can leave, Nathan boomed, knowing quite well that no one wanted to be tested. Everyone got in line, and Nathan gestured to me to test someone first. I waved the girl who was in front of the line over. She cautiously did so and stuttered her name out so that they could write her down. Saw Samantha Avenue. I got in stance and prepared for her to make the first move. Chapter 8. I cringed as the girl swiped at me again, her nails brushing my arm. Nathan had restricted me from using my speed, which gave her a very good advantage over me since she was quick. Her breaths came in short breaths, showing that she had little to no stamina when fighting. Her blonde hair whipped in front of her face because of the wind and her momentum, causing her to wrestle with it to get it out of her line of vision. Taking my chance, I did a roundhouse kick, which knocked her to the ground. She needs to work on stamina, I told Jace, who was writing down the information. She's good with speed, maybe a little work on reflexes. Still, she did pretty well. The girl, Samantha, groaned as she lay on her back, staring at the very clear blue sky. That was exhausting, she muttered to no one in particular. A small smile edged onto my face at how honest she was before looking towards my next opponent. A shaggy brown-haired guy studied my body, instantly telling me that he had been trained and was probably a high-ranking wolf. He's checking for weaknesses and probably studied the way I fought. Henry Riggs, his rough voice said, distracted by still looking for weakness in me. Glancing towards Nathan, I asked, "Am I allowed to use my speed on this one?" Hopeful that he would say yes, I narrowed my eyes onto the guy named Riggs for the first place where I would attack him. Yeah, I guess so. Since he's a high-ranking, Nathan chuckled, staring at me with amusement. Smiling innocently, I crouched low on my legs so I could maneuver quickly. Whenever you're ready, Riggs, I told Henry, who got in a fighting stance. His eyes calculated my body one more time before giving a nod that he was ready. Shifting onto the balls of my feet, I waited for him to move towards me so I could jump over him. Sadly, he did the opposite and started rotating in a circle. I followed his movement, keeping my space away from him until I learned whether he had a noticeable weakness or not. We rotated for a while until I decided to make the first move, which was unusual for me. A smirk graced his face as he saw me bounding towards him. He had a plan, I thought. Coming up with my own, I jumped over his head and turned quickly to punch him in the back. A grunt was the response I got from him as he stepped forward swiftly and pivoted to face me. This time, he made the first move and aimed for my side with a penthouse kick. Grabbing his foot, I twisted it and let go, remembering that I was supposed to go a little easy on them since it was the first day. He frowned at my reaction, realizing what I was doing, but he said nothing as he flew a punch at my face with merciless speed. It grazed my cheek as I tried to dodge it. Jumping back, I landed on my feet and put one of my hands to balance me. Growling with my teeth at him, I waited for an opening. Several punches and kicks later, I had finally won. My breath was slowly turning into pants as I leaned onto my knees. He just needs to work a little on strength, I told Jace, rubbing a sore spot on my side that could have knocked me to the ground if it was just a teensy bit stronger. I could see Jace nod his head as he wrote it down in the log. Next one's yours, Nathan, I told him, lying down on the sidelines to watch. Riggs was standing by the time I was lying down, and he moved to sit down next to me. Your kicks are strong. I don't want to know how it feels when you go all out, he told me, rubbing his shoulder where I had kicked him twice. Smiling, I thought about how one of the times I had gone full on out with my strength on one of those kicks, but I slowed it down a second before it hit his shoulder. Keeping to myself about how it was only 1 second less of going full on out, I shrugged, still panting a little. I don't want to know how it feels when you gain a little more strength in those punches. I'm quite sure I have a bruised side, I complimented him back, closing my eyes as Nathan started fighting the next person. This continued for several hours as we were left with only 3 people in the line. My sister had been beaten quickly by Christy, a couple of people, and go. She left with a nasty bruised cheek and a busted lip. Pushing myself away from my last opponent, who lay on the floor as the other was exhausted, I walked towards Nathan and plopped my head on his shoulder. Christy can have the next one, I told him, not even bothering to look to see who was next. He nodded his head and stroked my hair as I told Christy that she was next. But I don't want to fight Alex, he's her brother. This is where it gets interesting because she gets to kick is fine, but she whined from her spot on the ground. Frowning, I glanced over at the line to see Alex standing there and watching us expectantly. Luckily, he couldn't hear us. He looked exactly like he did back in the old days with his brown hair and gray eyes. Sighing, I weighed my choices for which one pleased me more. 1, I could see my brothers, but 2, I could relax. Then my mind jumped to what Christy had just said. Comprehending her words, my tongue came out in disgust. Did you just say my brother has a fine butt? Why are you looking there? Perv, I told her as she made a puke noise quickly and groaned, hitting her forehead over and over again. Deciding I would relax after this fight, I walked towards Alex. After this one, I'm going home, I yelled towards my pack. Alex watched me with curiosity as if I looked familiar, which I should have since I was his sister. Very tempted to call him an idiot inside my head, I told myself, maybe that's not why he was staring at me like that. You look familiar. Do I know you? As the words came from his mouth and filtered into my head, I narrowed my eyes at him. Idiot. That was the only name he deserved right now. Rolling my eyes, I got into stance and ignored his question. Tell them your name and get ready so I can go home, I told him impatiently as he just stood there and stared at me. Shaking his head, he snapped out of his trance and did as I commanded him. Alex Richards. He got into stance quickly, and the combat began quickly. The fight lasted a while, but I beat him easily once he got worn out from all the punches and kicks he threw my way. Rubbing my sore eye, the only place he had managed to hit me, I told my group, I'm going home. See you later. Y'all can take care of the last 2 people, right? Nathan waved me off and nodded his head, and I walked slowly to my awaiting shower. Once I arrived in the restroom, I pulled the sweat-filled clothes off me. I turned on the shower to warm the water and scanned through the radio stations as it warmed up. I climbed into the shower and relaxed in the warm water after finding a station I liked. As I finished my shower, Katy Perry's I Kissed a Girl came on, and I decided to scream it at the top of my lungs while I got dressed. I kissed a girl and I liked it. The taste of her cherry chapstick, I yelled as I pulled on a large shirt and walked back to the bathroom to turn the radio off. A pounding on my door signaled that someone was there, and I pulled it open to see Ryan. His eyes blazed with annoyance as I hadn't turned my radio off yet. Will you stop screaming the worst song to exist ever, please? I'm gaining a headache from it, he told me, rubbing his temples as if to prove his point. Smiling, I asked, oh, you mean this? I kissed a girl, and I liked the taste of her cherry chapstick. Oh. He growled at me and nodded his head in response to my question. Not able to stop myself, I giggled at his childish frown and pout. He shook his head in irritation as he swept down the halls and turned right at the corner. The pain that laced through my heart at his disappearance made me frown. I shouldn't be giggling at him like some lost romantic teenage girl. He rejected me. Groaning, I turned off the radio and slid into my covers to fall asleep, hearing the door open as Christy stepped into the room. Chapter 9. How do you think she is going to react? a whispered voice sounded from the corner of my room. What are these baboons doing in my room? I don't know, but it's going to be priceless, another one whispered next to my head. My eyes twitched as I forced them to stay softly closed. 1 second, don't do anything. I'm going to video record it, the other voice sounded, pausing for a second, to likely get his phone out, before continuing, okay, I'm ready. 3, 2, 1. Opening my eyes wide open, I sat up quickly and stared at Cole and Nathan. Retreat, Cole yelled, standing quickly from the side of my bed with shaving cream and a feather in his hand, scampering out the door behind Nathan. Rolling my eyes, I climbed out of bed slowly and woke up Christy. How she sleeps through something like that, I will never know. Christy, wake up. It's time for our run with the pack. MNHGRS kills, she groaned in response. Cole and Nathan were about to make you splatter shaving cream all over you, I told her nonchalantly as I opened the drawer in which we put our shorts. They were going to do what? She yelled, becoming awake immediately, as I grabbed pink and black shorts and a gray tank top. Get dressed and plan revenge at the same time, I told her as I got changed quickly. Swiping my hair into a messy bun, I walked downstairs. My stomach growled in protest as I stopped in the living room, trying to push myself into the kitchen. Patting it, I watched my pack play Super Mario Brothers. I'm going to beat you. No, you aren't. I'm gonna beat you, liar. Laughing at their childishness, I moved into the kitchen. While rounding the corner, I saw Ryan. He stood erect as he waited by the door to the kitchen. What is he doing? My wolf asked. Being an idiot was what he was doing. His stern eyes told me that he was up to something and that he was determined to see it through. Sighing at the depressing matter that I would have to pass by him, I walked quickly by and opened the door. Oh, hey. I know you. You were the girl I met on the staircase, he told me in an excited tone. I narrowed my eyes in annoyance. Did Ryan really not recognize me, or was he trying to irk me by showing that I really did mean nothing to him in the past? Deciding to see which one of the two it was, I replied, also, the girl you've known your whole life. The girl who did your chores. The girl whom you rejected a couple of years ago. The girl who should be carrying your pups. Your mate. Yeah, that's me, Dylan. By then, I was facing him with a deep scowl on my face. His eyes showed the shock he felt. The eyes showed the stupidity that he couldn't recognize his own mate. The eyes reflected the girl who stood in front of him. Dylan, his voice repeated. You really could not recognize me, I stated, my voice cracking. Tears filled my eyes as I turned back towards my destination. The pantry was my safe haven, holding all my precious food. Wait, Dylan. I continued to ignore him as I wiped a stray tear from my face. He really couldn't recognize me. He must not have cared about me back then, not even to remember my eyes, face, voice, or anything. Why did the fates have to give me him? My mind had definitely never stopped dwelling on him. I knew I had changed, but not enough for my own mate not to recognize me. It's not like I had gotten plastic surgery like some dumb blonde bimbos. Grabbing a yogurt granola bar, I exited the kitchen quickly with Ryan trailing me. Dylan. Just ignore him, I told myself over and over again. Just make your way to the line of trees and venture in them, and then he will stop following you. Dylan, Ryan yelled, grabbing my arm to make me spin around. I don't have anything to say to you, I told him, turning my face away to try and hide my tears. Well, I have some things I want to tell you, he told me, wiping my tears and turning my face with a push of his hand. His eyes looked at me tenderly, and his head was cocked to the right slightly, giving him an open look. I never thought I would see you again. I never thought that I would hear that beautiful voice. I'm so sorry that I rejected you. I regret it, and I wish that I could make it up to you. I would do anything to see a smile directed at me from you. To hold you. To cherish you. To never let you go. His voice cracked a bit at the end, and a few stray tears welled up in his eyes. My hand inched up towards his face hesitantly. Once it reached his cheek, I wiped away his tears and drew my hand back. He continued to stare at me with those sorrowful eyes as my heart wrenched to take care of him and make him happy. My thoughts tumbled around as I tried to figure out the choice I should make. I couldn't forgive him so easily and let everything that he did to me fall away. I don't even know if I wanted to. Should I even give him a chance? Opening my mouth, I hesitated on the words I should choose. What should I tell him? He has hurt me so much in the past that I don't know if I could faithfully trust him again. You don't have to tell me what you're thinking right now. I'll just go and let you think. I know that you're packed and you are about to go on a run. Maybe it will help you think things through, he told me before walking away and back into the house. What just happened? Dylan. Hurry up, we're going, Christy yelled as she walked out of the house to stand next to a confused Nathan. A wide-eyed Nathan who had just seen what happened. Chapter 10. What was I thinking? Did I think that just because he said sorry, I would forgive him? Shaking my head, I jumped over another log. We were out running still, and I had done precisely what he told me to do. Think over what he said. Growling at my stupid hesitation and hope, I pushed myself faster. Trees passed my line of sight quicker. Did he think I was stupid? I shook my head in frustration. What was he planning? Pumping my legs even faster, I took off and left everyone else behind. They could run together with each other, but I needed to go somewhere I hadn't gone to since I was little by myself. A place that I had been scared to visit for a long time. The treehouse. I found it when I was little, right after my parents died. It had become my sanctuary for a while. Well, it was until Macy saw it, and it was forbidden for me ever to go there again. I wonder how much it has changed. When I first found it, it was full of pinned-up posters and bean bags. What Macy and everyone else had done to it was a mystery to me. I took a sharp left at a tree with no bark. Several yards in front of me stood the treehouse. It had flags strewn across the wood of the pack's name. Shifting quickly back into my human form, I scampered up the ladder in anticipation. I took a glance inside before walking in. Not much had actually changed, except for the huge TV and pictures of the pack added to the walls. I strolled towards the pictures and glanced at them all. There were several ones of just Macy. Some of Macy and Dylan are smiling happily. Several of Ryan. So many of the three of them that I couldn't count. My eyes skimmed over one photo and then went back. It was a picture of Ryan and me in wolf form together before my parents died. We were both crouched low and ready to play. My eyes showed excitement and happiness. Where had it all gone? Strolling backwards, I plopped into one of the bean bags. My nose was filled with the scent of Ryan. This must have been the one he always sat in. My head leaned back on the top of the bean bag as I sighed. Everything was now reminding me of him. Memories that I haven't thought about in so long, the time before my parents died. During those times, Ryan and I were inseparable. Anyone who watched us probably guessed that we would end up happy mates. He would show up at my house, breathing heavily, to walk me to daycare in the pack house. He was always sweet and full of smiles. He would push me on the swings and buy me a lollipop with his allowance. When I fell on the concrete in the park and started bawling, he ran up to me and kissed my scraped knee. He told me that his kisses were magical and could fix anything. I wonder if that's still true. If we kissed, would all my doubts, insecurities, pain, and hesitancy disappear? My eyes closed as I let the stress just flow through my mind. What should I do? Tears flowed down my cheeks in streams as my breathing became shaky. My body slumped off the beanbag as I let my body relax. What should I do? I whispered into the floor as if it would have the answer. You should make him work for your forgiveness. Make him watch Barbie and My Little Pony. Make him massage your feet and take you out for dinner. You should do what your heart is telling you, not your brain, Dylan. And now the floor is talking to me. It actually answered me. Are you saying my brain isn't smart? Not as smart as your heart in these situations, a voice from behind me stated. My head popped up as I wiped my tears in embarrassment. Turning around, I faced the person as she stared at the pictures pinned to the wall. The floor had definitely not been talking to me a minute ago. Chapter 11. Macy. She nodded her head and replied, "Congrats, you know what your sister looks like." There was a long, awkward silence after that. I didn't know what I should say to her or even how I felt right now. I felt anger, confusion, and emotions I couldn't place, and I knew for a fact that I missed my sister from before my parents died. The one who would fix my hair in the mornings, play Barbies with me, the one who would tuck me in at night, the sister who would hold me after I had a nightmare, the sister who I loved. Not the one who laughed when I fell, not the sister who would insult me, not the one who would laugh as her friends made fun of me, and definitely not the sister who had abandoned me. My legs hesitantly shifted to move forward as she held her hands out for a hug. But then I realized what I was doing. I forgive her and believe everything she says. This could just be a prank. There were probably hidden cameras somewhere. They would show it to their pack so they could all see how naive I was. I wasn't going to fall for it, I thought as I took a step backwards to make some distance between us. My eyes narrowed in disgust and distrust. Her hand fell down to her sides as a sigh fell through her body. I was an idiot to think that you would forgive me that easily. I haven't even said sorry. I continued my way to the other side of the treehouse. Tears glistened down her cheeks as sobs racked through her body. I'm sorry for never being there for you. Mom and Dad must be so mad and disappointed in me. When I see them again, they'll probably disown me, and I would not blame them. I have been such a terrible sister ever since they died. I disowned you without even hearing what you had to say. She broke into tears as I wondered if I could trust her. I was never there for you after they died, she sobbed, her voice cracking and croaking. I made such a big mistake. My mind was slowly starting to believe her as my feet shuffled forward a couple of steps. Can I believe that you have changed? Can I believe that you're my sister again? I asked her, knowing that even if she were tricking me, she would say yes. Her head nodded up and down as she tried to take control of her tears. My mind quickly decided to forgive her, but to keep a watch on her. My feet walked the remaining distance between us, and I hugged her. Alex is outside. He always wanted to go and make up with you, but I held him back. It was all my fault that you had no family or friends. I shook my head, telling her no. All this happened for a reason. What you did made me a stronger person, and I am who I am today. I wouldn't have left if y'all hadn't done what y'all did. And if I hadn't left, I wouldn't have been able to come back and save you and the pack. She stared into my eyes and took deep, shaky breaths as I smiled softly at her. I tugged her towards the opening of the door, but she held me back. What are you going to do with Ryan? Are you going to forgive him? She asked me, staring straight into my eyes. My eyes darted away from hers, unsure, has he really changed, or is he the same way as he was back then? She tugged my face back. He changed the moment you arrived. I know that day what you thought, but nothing actually happened. A couple walked by, making out with each other while he started tickling me. A look of disbelief crossed my face as we stared at each other. I promise, Dylan, that's all that happened. Please give Ryan a chance to make it up to you. Sure, he doesn't deserve you, but he really wants to make it up to you. I glance away from her at the picture of me and Ryan. My eyes softened, looking at the two of us playing around. I moved my stare back to Macy as I replied, I'll think it over, but I'm not promising anything. Macy nodded her head, and I led the way out of the old treehouse, climbing out of the doorway. Dylan, my brother said, staring at me with sadness in his eyes. His arms hesitantly opened as I rushed down the ladder and ran towards him. I slowed down into a walk as I stepped into his arms. They closed around me quickly and held me tight as his head rested on mine. I've missed you so much. Words cannot express my regret and sorrow. I should have been there for you, no matter what other people told me. It was the peer pressure, I told him, trying to lessen his guilt, although my heart still felt like it had been crushed by a bulldozer. That's no excuse to abandon my sister the way I did. What type of brother am I? I hugged him tighter as I realized words were not what he needed. He needed my affection. Let's go home, guys. We can watch a movie like the old times. We walked next to each other towards the guest house, Macy on my right and Alex on my left. How long this would last, I don't know, but I know that we would fight for each other to make up for the past. We would be a real family, just the three of us, until we got married and expanded our family. But it will all start here right now. We walked into the doorway and into the living room. Macy argued that we should watch Bridesmaids, and Alex argued that we should watch Die Hard. Guys, just choose one already. I groaned as the two were literally butting heads with each other. Why don't you choose one then? Macy said, guessing that I would at least choose a chick flick. Alex nodded his head, obviously thinking that I was on his side. Idiots. I'm on my own side. Okay, I will, I told them, getting up off the couch and walking towards the DVD rack. I choose, I drawled out, scanning the movies quickly. Perfect. I choose Spirit, I finished while grabbing the case and opening it. The two groaned and fell back on the floor as I slipped the movie into the player and skipped the previews. I sat down with wide eyes and pressed play, hugging a pillow. What's going on here? Nathan asked, standing in the doorway. Throwing my pillow at him, I replied, shut up. Can't you see we are watching a movie? Now, come sit down and bring the pillow back. Chuckling, he walked over and sat down, handing the pillow back to me. I gave my attention back to the movie as Spirit learned how to stand. Alex and Macy stared at us for a while until I raised the pillow in warning. Their eyes skirted to the TV quickly, and I rested the pillow back in my lap. Hey guys, what are y'all doing? Ryan asked, giving me a déjà vu moment. I threw the pillow at him, glaring, why does no one understand that we are watching a movie? Now, come sit down and bring the pillow in case I have to throw it at another person. He did as I demanded, obedient and quiet. He sat down next to me and wrapped an arm around the couch, settling in to watch the movie with us. I tried to divert my attention back to the movie but couldn't, catching myself staring at him several times. What am I going to do? I asked myself. A hand touched my knee and rubbed it as if sensing my frustration. Glancing at it, I realized it was Ryan's and glanced at him. His attention appeared to be set on the movie as he comforted me. Sighing, I leaned back into the couch and decided to worry about it later. There would be a lot of time to do that later tonight, anyway. Chapter 12 That night, I slept peacefully in my bed with Christy, who wasn't all pleased with me. She was mad that I let my sister and brother off so easily. Flashback asterisk, what do you mean you forgave them? Do you even remember what they did to you? Well, let me remind you. Your brother disowned you at your sister's demand. Macy, your sister took your maid away from you. Christy reprimanded me. They did all of this just because your parents died saving you. They were not there when we, your pack now, raised your self-esteem and trained you. We were your new family. And now you are just Dash. Now I am being the bigger person and forgiving them. Now, I'm trying to reunite with the family I love and save my old pack. The pack where my parents lived and had a happy life. It's the last thing I have let go of them. By then, I had a tear rolling down my cheek and Christy turned her head. She let it go after that and didn't mention it again last night, taking a bag of Skittles out. End of flashback asterisk. I'm thankful that Nathan didn't tell anyone about the moment when Ryan or Christy would be at my neck. I would have had no sleep, and Christy would never talk to me again. Slipping on some jean shorts as well as a black tank top, I exited the room silently. Closing the door with a twist of the knob, I turned and skipped down the hallway and floated down the staircase quickly. A pink iPod on the entry table next to the front door caught my attention. So that's where you have been, I told my iPod as I grabbed it and the white headphones next to it. Popping in the buds, I put my playlist on shuffle. Continuing my way to the kitchen, I squealed in delight when Wild Ones came on. Listening to my son, I danced and sang my way to the pantry. I want to shut down the club with you, I sang while I grabbed honey bunches of oats with strawberry cereal. Walking out, I dropped my cereal as I stared at a very amused-looking Ryan eating eggs. Eggs. That meant he had to be here when I walked in to be eating them now. which meant he just saw me dance and sing. "Kill me now," my wolf said. "Please take me with you," I thought. Ryan stared at me with an expectant smile as I continued to stare dumbstruck at him. He gestured to sit next to him with a chuckle and then continued eating with a large grin on his face. Gulping, I grabbed my cereal from the floor and grabbed a bowl before grabbing the milk from the fridge. "Why are you even here?" I asked. "You have your own competent kitchen in the main house." His eyes continued watching me as he replied, "But you're here, and I was hoping that I could take you out for a run or go somewhere like the mall." Surprised I didn't respond immediately, I walked over to the seat next to him and sat down with my bowl of cereal. Taking a huge bite, I thought over my choices. 1, completely flat out rejects him. 2, go running in wolf form with him. And 3, go out to the mall with him. Number 3 was immediately eliminated from the choices. I hate shopping, and the last time I went was with Darlin when I first joined the pack. I have avoided malls ever since. So, choose 1 or choose 2. I glanced up at him and noticed how sad he looked as he stared at his empty plate, probably thinking that my silence was a no. "I'll go running," I told him before I stuffed another bite into my mouth. From my peripheral vision, I saw his head whip up and his head turned towards me with a wide smile. "Really?" he asked me, and I could practically see his wolf wagging his tail. He looked like a 2-year-old who had just heard that they were going to the candy store. Nodding my head, I stood up and grabbed my bowl and his plate to put them in the sink. He stared at me with excited eyes as I rinsed off the dishes and placed them in the dishwasher. Stretching my arms, I opened my mouth and said, "I'm ready when you are." Jumping up, he grabbed my arm, which made me flinch reflexively. The reflex of being hit in this pack for so many years. His eyes saddened as he guessed correctly as to why I had flinched. "Sorry, sore muscle there," I lied before I could even stop myself from making him feel better. He looked unsure and doubtful of what I said. "You promise?" His eyes stared into mine, looking for any signs of lying. "Pinky promise." Although I have no idea why I would flinch otherwise. Grabbing his wrist this time, I led him out the door. "Okay, I'm gonna shift over there behind that tree. You shift behind that one," I told him, pointing out 2 trees that were several trees apart from each other. He nodded and walked towards his as I walked to mine. Taking off my clothes, I quickly shifted and walked towards where Ryan was. Letting out a bark, I let him know I was on my way over. A large black wolf jumped out over a pair of bushes and shook out his fur. I recognized it immediately from memories of when I was young and we used to play together. Ryan cocked his head and let out a whine. Letting out a bark, I took off. The sound of his paws and his hot breath on my tail made me shiver. He ran beside me and glanced over at me. Suddenly, I was on the ground, tumbling with black fur all over my face. Ryan had pounced on me. Pounced. Pushing off him, I crouched low and let out a playful bark, telling him I was in and ready to take him down. He got up off his belly and mimicked my position, wagging his tail high and proud. "He's such an alpha," my wolf told me. I nodded my head, agreeing with her as I focused on Ryan. Jumping towards him, I let out a short bark as he flinched. Letting out a playful growl, he let me know that he did not appreciate my test. Crouching low again, I was ready to pounce on him when a bunny hopped out and scared everything out of me. A loud whine came out of me, and my feet toppled forward right into Ryan. We went rolling down the hill behind him. Once we stopped, Ryan's wolf was on top of me and suffocating me. Ryan got up quickly, and I followed suit. Ryan stared at me with amused eyes, telling me that he thought it was cute and quite funny that I was scared of that bunny. Letting out a huff, I looked around at our surroundings. A lake lay next to us, and I walked over to it and took several laps around it. And I would have continued if something had not pushed me in. I tumbled into the lake and took a deep breath when I resurfaced. Ryan stood watching me look tall and full of pride at the lake's edge. I had definitely found the culprit. He was going to die when I got out of this lake. Running out of the lake, I pounced on Ryan and bared my teeth at him. His paw pushed my snout softly, not taking me seriously at all. Huffing again, I stared down at my filthy white coat that now looked beige. Ryan stood up and panted while watching me for my next move. Now that I was dirty and tired, I was definitely going to go take a shower and lie down and watch TV. Nodding my head towards home and then my coat, I let him lead the way to the house. When we had shifted and changed back into our clothes, we walked towards the guest house. So that bunny, he mentioned. Don't mention that thing. Just because it scared you doesn't make you any less scary, he told me and then muttered, because you never were, to begin with. What was that? I asked him and turned my whole body to face him. I was kidding, he told me with his hands up. That's what I thought. But that bunny dash Ryan. Chapter 13 Dylan, come to my room immediately when you arrive. Kyle mind-linked me. Glancing at Ryan, I asked, is Alpha Ryan coming? For a couple of minutes, there was silence, and by then, Ryan and I arrived at the front door. My mind was racing in circles, trying to figure out if I should bring him or not. No, this is a meeting just for our pack, Kyle told me. I have to go, Ryan, I told him, crossing my fingers that he wouldn't start asking questions. I had no luck at all. Where are you going? I'll go with you, he told me excitedly as he caught up to my side, grinning widely. Groaning, I tried to think of a way to get rid of him. Suddenly, a light bulb went off. I would tell him that I was going to take a shower. I opened my mouth to say to him why he couldn't come. Ryan. Ryan. A bunch of children screamed and came running at him. Ryan turned and caught one just in time before the kid fell flat on his face. The brunette-headed boy laughed with excitement as Ryan lifted him into the air. Seeing a chance to escape, I pivoted around quickly and turned around the corner. Relieved, I opened the door and slipped inside. Just in time, Dylan, Nathan told me as I sat down in the empty chair next to him and Kyle. Glancing around, I saw that the room was flooded with all the people who had come with us. Most people were standing and quite close to one another. Okay, so the reason why I have rounded everybody up is because we need to figure out where the rogues are staying before they attack. We will need some people to scout out the area. I won't be able to go, so Dylan will be leading the group and making the decisions unless I give her some guidance. Who will volunteer to go with her? Kyle asked the room. Half of the room raised their hands, including Nathan, Cole, Christy, and Christy's brother, Jake. I knew that only 6 people at the most would come, and Nathan and Cole would not be among them. Jake, Jace, Christy, Tyler, and Jackie will go with Dylan. The rest of you will stay here and protect the pack in case the rogues come. You who are going with Dylan need to gather your supplies immediately so y'all can leave by tonight, Kyle told us. The 5 people who were coming with me filtered out of the room, and I stood to follow. Nathan grabbed my hand and whispered, "Good luck," before I left the room, and I smiled in response. Walking with Christy to the room, I thought about where we should go first. The fields or the forest. I took a shower to wash off all the dirty lake water and then changed into a pair of sweats and a green v-neck. Packing 2 changes of clothes, I walked to the pantry with my pink duffel bag. Grabbing a box of protein bars, I stuffed them into my bag and sat down in the living room. Grabbing a notepad and pen that were lying on the coffee table, I drew a rough sketch of the area. To the right of the main house were fields, and to the left was a forest. Where would they most likely be? The forest had food, but we wouldn't expect them to be in the fields. In the forest, the pack ran in a lot, so someone probably would have run into them by now. It's been a couple of weeks since I've been here, but I haven't heard of anyone missing. If someone has gone missing, we should check the forest first, but if not, we should check the fields. Making up my mind, I headed towards the main pack house where I could find Ryan or Derek. Either one of them would know the answer. I sent a message to all the people who were coming with me to scout that we would leave in 30 minutes and be ready. Opening the door, I glanced around for someone so I could ask them where the alpha or beta was. My eyes found no one, which was weird, considering that the hall was usually full of people unless it was Friday. Slapping my forehead, I realized that it was Friday and that they would all be watching a movie. I walked quickly towards the living room and opened the door to see the pack sitting and watching The Hobbit on the big TV for the adults and Tangled on the smaller TV for the children. Ryan looked over and grinned when he saw me. I waved for him to come over to where I was. He stood and arrived quickly, still smiling widely. "Hey, I couldn't find you after those kids attacked me. You just disappeared. You should come to watch The Hobbit with us. It just started." He invited me with a happy look in his eyes. "If I were going to watch a movie, I would have joined them," I told him, pointing towards the group of kids. He chuckled and shook his head. "But that's not why I'm here, and I actually didn't know it was Friday until I saw the empty hall. I wanted to know if anyone has gone missing while I have been on a run." A serious look came over his face as he thought about it. "No, no one has." "Why?" "I just needed to know where we should start scouting. I have to go now. I'll see you later." He stood silently as I left, watching me, confused. I walked quickly back to the guest house to see everyone ready in the kitchen. Smiling, I grabbed my duffel bag and shook my head for them to follow me. "Where are we going to scout first?" Christy asked me curiously. "The fields," I told her, leading the way to the tall, swaying grass. Chapter 14. Once we reached the fields, I told everyone to listen to their senses, that our wolves would be able to sense the rogues before we did. Although we shared our senses with our wolf, it was more accustomed to them and could utilize them more effectively. I sniffed close to the ground and followed my gut instinct in which direction to go. We had been searching for hours before I told them that we would stay where we were camping for the night. Christy and the others grabbed their supplies and either set up a tent for themselves or made a pallet in a comfortable area so they could sleep in wolf form. Several minutes later, everyone was situated for the night and went to the creek that we were camped next to take a swim. They took off their clothes, not the least embarrassed about being naked in front of each other. Christy and Jake ran up to where I was relaxing, dripping water droplets on me. "We were wondering who you wanted to go hunt and get food," Jake told me while Christy nodded along with him. Stretching, I glanced around the area, looking for any wildlife. A couple of rabbits hopped around in circles, being foolish as always, and a small group of turkeys squabbled at each other. "If y'all want to hunt, you can come with me." I stood while they glanced at each other before deciding they would join me. Shifting, we crept and camouflaged ourselves in the tall grass. Christy and Jake inched their way towards the bunnies, who were clueless about what was about to happen. Poor things. That left me with turkeys who were showing their feathers off to each other. 1, 2, I counted, my mind linked with the 2 siblings. 3. We 2 off at our prey and ended up with 5 rabbits and 3 turkeys. This wouldn't last long with us eating it raw in wolf form, though. We would need to find more food later. I dropped the food off in the middle of the camp and glanced at the creek, trying to decide whether I wanted to take a dip or not. Everyone by now was already out or on their way out to dry themselves. I held onto my lip with my teeth for several moments before deciding to go ahead and that we might be next to the creek tomorrow. After undressing, I dived into the water and floated on the surface, relaxing my body. I listened to the others munch happily on their meal while growling playfully if someone inched towards them. Gently patting my hands in the water, I waited several minutes before climbing out and getting dressed. There was no meat left when I checked, only bones, but I wasn't expecting that. I walked over to my bag and grabbed a protein bar from the large box. Munching on it happily, I glanced around to see Christy shaking her head while watching me. Protein bars. Who brings protein bars with them? Only you, Dylan. Only you. And even if someone did bring those things with them, they would not eat them for dinner. I pouted at her as I made my bites smaller to make it look like I was ashamed of myself. "You should be ashamed of yourself," she told me, catching onto what I did. Suddenly, a hand snatched it away from my grasp and sight. Turning, I saw Jake happily munching on my bar. Christy started laughing at the situation, knowing full well that no one would take my bars away from me unless they wanted to do something. "That's mine." "You can't eat it," I screamed at him, trying to take it back, but he held it over his head while chuckling. A frown graced my face while I jumped, trying to reach it. "Give it BA dash," I started demanding before he dropped the rest of the bar into his mouth, chewed it, swallowed it, and then had the idiocy to smile at me. "You're dead," Christy told him while I crouched low on the ground so I could pounce on him. "Oh, please." "Like Dylan could even hurt this," he replied, waving his hands over his body. He truly is an idiot if he thinks he just spoke the truth. I'm too attractive for a girl to hit me. He's a dead idiot, I felt before pouncing on him and pounding my fist on his head. "Give it back. Give it back, you moron. I want it back. Give me it back." "Jake, give it back," I ranted, continuing my plan to make a large bump on his head. Christy was cracking up by now and could not contain herself, and we had gathered a crowd of the others. They were all smiling and looking at us like we were the newest TV show on CW. "I can't give it back. I already ate it. What do you want me to do? Throw it up? Poop it out? I don't care. Find a way." "I want it back," I continued, yelling at him. This continued for the rest of the night until we both fell asleep with me still on him from when I pounced on him. Jace told me that I would keep hitting Jake every now and then, telling him I wanted it back while I was sleeping. Jake would cringe in his sleep and tell me that he would get it back for me later when he had pooped it out. Smiling, I walked away and hit Jake on the head, telling him that I still wanted it back. I sent a couple of people out to get food for breakfast, and I ordered the rest to pack up camp. I joined them and folded up the other people's tents and blankets after I had done mine. The breakfast crew came back shortly after we finished with several rabbits and a deer. Where they found the deer in the fields, I don't know, but we enjoyed it immensely. We shifted into our wolf forms and delved more into the tall stems of grass, searching for the rogues. In 2 days' time, I ran out of my protein bars because Jake ransacked them. 2 weeks later, we found an old fire pit, a couple of bones, and their scents. I immediately mind-linked Kyle to show him the old camp. He told me, "Good job," and that he would send some trackers over to us so that they could pick up the scent. He also told me that this was good and to come back when the trackers arrived. I informed the rest of the news that we would be going home soon. I was thrilled. Not because I would see Ryan, but because I would get to eat some protein bars. Chapter 15. The trackers arrived quicker than I expected, and I quickly got the scent before heading out. Turning, I motioned for us to start heading back as instructed. It wasn't 5 minutes later that I was pushed into muddy water by Jake. Growling and snapping in his direction to not do it again, I stood back up and shook the dirty water off of me. Glancing at my coat, I saw that it was dirty, and I cringed at the thought of caked mud in it. Thank goodness we were heading home, and I could have a proper shower. Suddenly, I was in muddy water again, and my eyes narrowed in on Jake running away. Letting out a loud howl, I bolted after him in the direction of home. My feet thundered across the fields quickly as I raced after the 18-year-old who acted like he was 2. The feeling was exhilarating anyway, given the long time since I had stretched my legs this much. He let out a pretended whimper as I let out a warning growl when I was close behind him. This fueled my legs to lunge at him and knock him to the ground. Lightly biting his neck in a playful manner, I wiggled my head gently. "So this is how you set them in their place, huh, Dylan?" a voice asked me, amused. A voice that surprised me. Immediately forgetting Jake, I pounced on the man, letting out a short bark and growl, letting him know that I would do the same to him. He laughed and rubbed my fur before sitting up. Shifting out of my wolf form, I pushed him down while I got up. "What are you doing here, Alpha Jake?" I asked him happily, bouncing up and down. I probably looked like some 4-year-old whose grandpa came to give them sweets. He stood up, trying to wipe off the paw prints that were on his chest. He gave me a pointed look when I giggled at the problems he was having. "I'm glad to see you aren't calling me Rouge anymore, Dylan," he told me, choosing to forget about the paw prints on his jacket. "Oh, that was just formalities for the people behind me, so they know who you are and don't attack you when I call you by your nickname." Rouge, I teased him while walking off to a tree to grab some clothes. He groaned and followed me to where I was. So, what are you doing here? I questioned him while pulling on a shirt and sweatpants that vaguely smelled of Ryan. Well, I was looking for my mate and came to this pack to see if she was here. Then I noticed that y'all were here and decided to visit for a while, he told me, waiting patiently for me to finish getting dressed. So you didn't find her here, I asked, stretching my neck while we walked towards the guest house. He didn't answer me, and when I looked over to see what was wrong, he was staring at me with a guilty expression. Who is she? I asked, knowing that he had to have found her, and that was why he had that expression on his face. He mumbled a name under his breath, looking down. Who? I can't hear you when you mumble. I asked again, scolding him with a whack across the head for mumbling. Your sister, Macy, he repeated quickly as we stood right next to the front door. Oh, really? That's great. Wait, why don't you sound thrilled? What did she do? Reject you? Oh, I'm going to go have a talk with her, I told him, jumping to conclusions. I reached to open the doorknob so I could go find Macy. No, that isn't it, he blurted, grabbing my wrist so I wouldn't open the door. I just didn't think you would approve. Understanding dawned on me as I realized he must have done something to keep her away. What did you do? I asked him blankly. He avoided my eyes, and I quickly thought of the worst things he could have done. Not much. I just told her I needed some time to think about it, he answered moments later, making me sigh in relief. Sure, she must be filled with sadness, but he didn't reject her. This was something that could be fixed easily. All he had to do was go to her and ask for forgiveness for being an idiot. Trust me when I say that I'm happy for both of you. But you need to go to her. She's probably bawling her eyes out on her bed, I told him. His eyes widened in realization, and he turned to run to her room. Watching him run off towards the pack house, I waited until I saw him go inside to open the door. Sighing in relief when I saw some protein bars, I grabbed one and headed up to my room. I munched on it carefully as I lay down to flip through the TV channels. I was tired and really needed to get some sleep before seeing anyone else. I would snap at anyone who dared to bother me in the grouchy state I was in. Seeing that The Little Mermaid was on Disney Channel, I left it there and curled up into my pillow. Just when I was about to fall asleep, someone opened my door slowly. Ryan poked his head and smiled when he noticed me, not seeing the annoyed look I was giving him. Hey, sleepyhead. Don't tell me you were about to go to sleep. We should do something, he rambled as I slowly got more annoyed with each word he said. My annoyed look turned into a glare as he sat down on my bed. Finally, he noticed and asked, What's wrong? You're glaring at me. You're interrupting my nap, a nap that I really want. I can't handle you sticking to my side like a little puppy, acting as if nothing happened. You're just being annoying, so just get out, I told him, not letting my glare dissipate. He frowned slightly at my words, and I could see irritation roll across his face. Do you think it's been easy for me, Dylan? I told you I was sorry and dash. Sorry doesn't mean that I forgive you or that I forgot the past. I interrupted him, sweeping my hair out of my face. He rolled his eyes at me, which just fueled my irritation and anger. Do not roll your eyes at me, Ryan. I wasn't the one who decided to make things become like this. I yelled at him, having lost my temper completely. He frowned even deeper and gave me a look, telling me that it was my fault that he was in a bad mood. My glare and anger didn't lessen as he stood up and walked out the door, not even giving a glance back. Moments later, I heard the front door slam shut, signaling that he had left. Annoyed, I curled back into my pillow, trying to fall back asleep. Flipping from side to side for a good hour, I got up to take a shower, knowing I needed one to relax my body and alleviate my frustration. I peeled my clothes off and turned the shower on its highest setting. I glanced in the mirror to see messy brown hair and eyes that screamed the annoyed state I was in. Testing the water with my hand, I pulled it back quickly to turn the radio on. I tested it one more time, as if it could get cold in the mere seconds it took to reach over and press the power button. Content with the warmth, I jumped in and lathered my hair with shampoo. The hot water relaxed my bones as I washed my hair and body. I sang along with each song that came in, although most of them talked about a great love the singer was experiencing. The total opposite of what I was feeling at the moment. Slipping out of the shower once my body was completely relaxed, I threw Ryan's borrowed clothes in the trash and grabbed an oversized t-shirt from Nathan a long time ago. A t-shirt that I would probably never return. I pulled it quickly over my head and snuggled into my bed, easily falling asleep. I vaguely remember my door opening an hour later and someone climbing into bed. Christy, my mind registered, and I fell asleep with an arm wrapping itself around me. Chapter 16. I woke up with the same warmth around me, holding me close to a body, a pretty large body. Maybe Christy put on some muscle and height, I thought nervously with hope. Tense and nervous, I glanced down at a large hairy arm. Definitely not Christy, unless she was turning into Bigfoot. Which might be a possibility. My brain went on alert, and I gripped the hand strongly, trying to pull it up and off my body. The arm pushed down and pulled me closer to the owner of the body. A groan sounded behind me, and I squirmed and tried to find some way to get the guy, or very strongly built woman, off of me. Dylan, a familiar voice groaned, making a warm breath come across my hair. I'm trying to sleep. Stop moving, the voice demanded sternly in a drowsy tone. I, being me, completely ignore the demand from the huge Oompa Loompa. Yes, that shall be his new nickname, Oompa Loompa. No, stay focused, Dylan. Oompa Loompa needs to know who is in charge here. Turning my body towards him, he groaned and whimpered to try to make me stop. I rolled my eyes at him as his drowsy eyes slit open into a pouty frown. I was comfy, Nathan whined, keeping his drowsy frown focused on me. What are you doing in my bed, Nathan? You have a perfectly good one right down the hallway with your roommate. Speaking of which, where is Christy? Did you kick her out of her own bed? I asked in a scolding tone. His hair in a tumbling mess beckoned me to run my hands through it as he stared at me with his big brown eyes. My hands drew forward to his head before he opened his mouth to reply to my questions, probably. Well, you see, I walked in and saw you asleep, but I really didn't want to go back to my room. He glanced around the room as if checking for someone or a camera. You see, Cole has been moaning for Darlin the whole time we have been here. I just wanted a peaceful night for once. And Christy fell asleep on the couch before I even walked up here, so I didn't really steal her bed, he finished, grinning at me hopefully. Sighing, I decided I didn't really care anyway and started to climb out of bed slowly. Wait, where are you going? Nathan asked, grabbing my arm. I'm getting up, I stated, glancing back at him. He immediately pulled me back under the covers while shaking his head no. None. You're staying here as my teddy bear, he told me, reminding me of how much he acted like a child. An adorable child, but that didn't change my mind. I wanted to get up and take a shower. But I want to take a shower, I told him while trying to squirm out of his arms. No, he yelled and hugged me close to him as if he was never going to let me leave. But I really want to get up, I told him, staring down at his closed eyes and his face nestled in my stomach. His arms loosened a bit as if he was thinking it through. As if he were trying to come up with compensation for me leaving him in my bed alone. Fine, he stated, releasing me from his grasp before continuing. But you have to take me somewhere to eat and show me around town. I thought it through slowly. He would let me go if I showed him around town. But what we should really be doing is preparing for those rouges so we can get out of here as quickly as possible. I voiced my thoughts to him, but he just shook his head and lightly put his arms around me before replying. We got it all worked out while you were scouting. All we need to do is locate the rogues and devise a plan tailored to the situation. We should go and have fun while there is nothing to do, he replied. Please, he added, seeing my hesitation. Fine. Go get ready. We leave in 30 minutes, I groaned. He immediately let me go and jumped up before leaving the room, running. Shaking my head, I walked into my closet and grabbed some black leggings, a black tank top, an open sweater, and some black leather boots before going into the bathroom and taking a shower. Looking in the mirror, I pulled my wavy hair into a ponytail before swiping some mascara on. I glanced at myself one more time in the mirror before walking out the door. While watching my bathroom door, Nathan bounced on the bed, grinning widely. Such a child, I thought as I grabbed my coat, scarf, and purse. "Are you ready?" Nathan asked in an impatient tone as he stood up quickly. "No, I'm just staring at you by the door with all my stuff because I'm not finished," I told him sarcastically while opening the door. "Ha ha ha. You're so funny. I think I'm going to die of laughter," he said, bored as he caught up to me on the stairs. Nodding, I agreed with him while locking the door and climbing into the passenger seat of Nathan's car. Nathan drove out of the woods and headed towards town as I dug through my cluttered purse. "Aha. I found it," I yelled, pulling out a CD and sticking it into the player. Nathan's eyes widened in terror as he glanced over and asked, "Which CD is this? What genre is it? Disney? What else?" I asked, narrowing my eyes, confused. I watched in amusement as Nathan hit his head against the steering wheel at the red light that we hit. "You think I'm an ignorant savage, and you've been to so many places. I guess it must be so, but still, I cannot see if the savage one is me. How can there be so much that you don't know?" "You don't know," I sang along with Pocahontas. "No. Please, someone save me," Nathan yelled out the window as I continued singing the song. I'm pretty sure that the whole town was staring at us in confusion and amusement. Nathan wanted to die, and I was singing Disney. All they needed was some buttered popcorn. It was a typical drama, after all. "Where should we eat?" he asked when the song ended. I said, pausing to think. "Turn right here, and then stop at Lana's. They have great chicken Florentine pasta." You do realize that we men eat meat, not women's classy food, right? "No, we eat juicy steak," he told me, but he still did as I directed him to do and turned right. "Oh, they have that too," I told him, climbing out of the door. Nathan followed me, chuckling as I pulled open the glass door and entered. The waitress never even glanced at me, smiling at him flirtatiously. I sat down across from Nathan at the open booth she led us to, as Nathan smiled at her and took the menus. "Stupid hormonal waitress," I mumbled, knowing full well that Nathan could hear me, but not the waitress. Nathan laughed out loud as the waitress walked away. "You don't need to worry about her, Dylan," he laughed, taking the menu and looking through the steaks. Chapter 17. You don't have to worry about her, Dylan. We were walking through Rallenton, and I was still trying to figure out what he meant. Was she not his type? Or did he mean something else? Something I should not be even thinking. I mean, there was no way he had a crush on me, right? Usually, I read Nathan as if he were an open book, even when he was trying to be closed off. Am I overthinking it? Maybe he was just joking around. But the way he shook his head while staring at the menu made me think otherwise, as if he was shaking his head at my ignorance. That part one read, "It was as if there was something right in my face that he could see, but I couldn't." Sighing, I ran my finger through my hair and glanced up at his face. His hair was tousled around, and his eyes twinkled with excitement. His shirt hung loosely over his blue jeans. He looked everywhere as if he were a 4-year-old in a candy store that also had toys. He was completely himself. I had to be overthinking things. Nathan was acting regular. He had to be joking around at that time. "What's up?" he asked, bringing me back to the real world. "Nothing," I said a little too quickly, cringing afterwards because I knew he would catch it. "Nothing? Are you sure?" Because that response was a little quick, he told me, pulling on my arm so we could stop and he could read my reactions to his questions. "It's seriously nothing," I replied, avoiding his eyes and fidgeting with my hands behind my back. He studied me for a minute before rolling his eyes and pulling me along with him towards the next department. Advice: when you're lying, look the person in the eyes, or you're not going to be believed, he advised me, rolling his eyes in the process. Advice was taken, but I wasn't lying, I told him, fastening my pace so I could walk beside him. He told me, knowing me too well to believe me. We walked towards the back, where they held hunting supplies. I decided quickly not to reply and just focus on the gear. I walked over to the glass container where the weapons were displayed. A beautiful mithril knife caught my attention immediately. I looked at the knife and saw it inscribed with swirls on the handle and jagged metal. "Do you want it?" Nathan asked, his lips brushing against my ear because he was so close. My body chilled in pleasure and a shiver climbed up my spine. I could feel him smile as he put his arms on either side of me and leaned over more to get a better look at the knife. I stared at him from the corner of my eye, my breathing shallow and wavering. Gulping, I shifted on my feet and forced myself to look back at the knife. "Well, do you, Dylan?" Nathan asked again, his mouth brushing over my ear again, causing tingling. "Dylan, you need to stop. This isn't like you." Focus on the question. "Do you want the knife?" "I don't know. I would have to see how it is weighted and how it throws." "It just depends," I told him, still staring at the knife. I felt Nathan pulled away as I continued studying the knife. "Excuse me, but I was wondering if I could look at one of your merchandise in that container," Nathan told one of the helpers. The guy walked over to where I was with a bright smile on his face. He swept back his dusty blonde hair and leaned on the counter. "Hello, ma'am. Which one would you like to look at?" "I'll have to look at your license," he told me, and I pointed at the knife before digging through my purse for my wallet. I heard the man open up the lock and grab the knife as I pulled out my license. The man grabbed my license, swept his eyes over it, and handed it back to me. "Okay, follow me," he told me, walking farther towards the back with the knife. When he stopped, we were standing in front of a large cardboard wall with a lot of holes from being thrown at with a knife. He handed me the knife and stepped back to give me room while I tested the knife's weight in my hand. Nathan leaned against one of the shelves, staring at the wall to pick a spot for me to hit. "There," he pointed at the wall. "Right between those two long gashes." I nodded my head and pulled my arm back to aim. Plunging my hand forward, I released the knife towards the wall. The noise was pretty as it delved into the cardboard exactly where Nathan told me to put it. Nathan nodded his head while the man clapped excitedly at my throw. "How was the weight?" Nathan asked as he pulled the knife out of the cardboard wall. "It was good, and it obviously goes through the air nicely," I told him as he handed the knife to the clerk. "We'll take it, and here's my card," he told the clerk. My mouth opened to object, to say that I could pay for my own knife. "And don't let this mad woman pay a cent for it," Nathan added as the clerk rushed away to the cash register. "I can pay for my own knife, Nathan." "Oh, I know you can. But I like doing it. It makes me feel important." "You feel important buying a knife?" I asked him, raising my eyebrow. He simply nodded, staring at the returning clerk who held a box, a receipt, and Nathan's card. Nathan grabbed it from him and led the way to the exit. I rushed after him and hooked my arm in his, trying to slow his long legs down a little. He complied and walked an eighth slower. "Thank you for buying at Rallenton's. Please come again," a clerk told us as we walked out the front doors. Nathan waved a hand up in the air without turning back as he continued his way to the car. "I don't know about you, but I'm ready to go back to the woods where I can run," he told me, opening my passenger door. "I think I'm going to relax in the living room and steal the TV away from the people in there and watch Frozen or Tangled." I buckled my seatbelt as he got out of the parking lot and started the drive home. Disney blared from the speakers and the windows were down as I sang my lungs out. At a red light, a car sat in the lane next to us, and when I glanced over, singing Let It Go, a cute young guy stared at me. I started doing the hand gestures Elsa did in the movie, which made his eyes widen. What can I say? I was a Disney fanatic. People were amazed by me. As Nathan pushed on the gas, my eyes glanced at the box which held my knife. Her name is going to be Mianna, I said out loud, naming my knife. Chapter 18 Ryan's PV. I sat at the kitchen table in the main house, trying to figure Dylan out. I said sorry. What else did she want me to do? Crawl on my knees and beg for her forgiveness? I'm an alpha. We don't do those things. Who does she think she is? I don't know, your mate perhaps, my wolf told me, aggravated. She is you, mate. She deserves whatever it takes to get her. If that means crawling and begging, then we do it. But I wasn't comfortable with crawling and begging. That would make me look weak to my pack. Yeah, because she deserved to be bullied by the entire pack, he replied sarcastically. I knew my wolf was right. She didn't deserve that. She earned the best, and that meant doing whatever she wanted me to. Sighing, I leaned my head on my hand, pushing the food around on my plate. Eggs, bacon, sausage. That's it. I could take her out to dinner. Show her that I was sincere in my apology. She wouldn't believe me, though. I would have to do something to make her listen to me again. Hey, Ryan, Macy greeted me as she sauntered her way over to the fridge. Her face was bright and cheerful, contradicting what it had looked like over the past week. Ever since her mate told her that he needed time, she had shut herself in her room, crying. The few times I saw her out of her isolated room, she had red-rimmed eyes and tears falling down her cheeks. She wouldn't say anything, no matter what you did. She just continued her way to her destination, which was usually the bathroom. I guess Dylan fixed whatever happened, and her mate made the right decision. A light bulb went off in my head as it clicked in my mind. Standing up, I bolted off to my study and dug through my drawers for a new sheet of paper. When I found one, I grabbed a pen sitting on the side before writing a note quickly. My eyes skimmed over the messy, hot pink message before deciding what it would have to do. I ran to the guest house and slipped the note under her door before walking away quickly with my fingers crossed. Dylan's POV. Let it go can't hold it back anymore, let it go, turn away and slam the door, I don't care what they're going to say, let the storm rage on the cold never bothered me anyway, Elsa sang from inside the massive TV. I was nestled in my blankets on the couch, anticipating the next scene. Suddenly, my wolf became alert in my brain, and I could feel her pacing back and forth. I jumped up from the couch and waited for her to tell me what it was. I snatched the television remote up from the table and pressed the power button, my hand nervously shaking. I had an idea of what was making her pace, and it definitely didn't sit well with me. Rouges, Dylan. They're waiting just inside the forest's tree line, my mother told me, proving my suspicions. I bolted to the main house while telling Alpha Kyle the news. I had to wake everyone up and lead the people who wouldn't be fighting to a safe location, primarily children. I scurried and threw doors open, yelling at people to wake up. A lot groaned and whined until they heard one word, rouges. All except one room filled with drunk teenage boys. They ignored all the reasoning I gave them about why they should get up. I was just about to go make them sober by slapping them when a voice boomed behind me. She said, get up. And if you're smart, you will do so now and get ready. A familiar voice boomed. Just from his tone, I could tell that he was furious at them and was holding himself back. I turned to see that he hadn't bothered with dressing, probably just getting back from his run. Nathan's eyes glistened with fury as they watched the boys scamper up and out of the room. Thanks, I told him before moving on to the next door while Nathan walked back outside to get the pack in order. Finally, I was at the final door, and I burst it open to see a young boy crying over a pale, open-eyed woman. Running over to him, I picked him up while he squirmed in my arms. No, let me go. Let me go. I want my mommy, the boy cried before turning to my shoulder to bawl. I glanced at the woman and saw her ears spilling blood out. Poison. Someone had poisoned the young mother, and she probably hadn't known until she saw blood from her ears. I carried the boy out, hushing him as I scurried down the stairs and out the door. Kyle called me over, staring at the child, confused. Everyone became silent and stared at the child, who nestled further into my shoulder, whimpering. 5 minutes later, it was still quiet, but the little guy had fallen asleep. "Who is he?" Nathan asked. "I found him in a room with his mother, who had died." "Probably from poison," I replied sadly, bringing the child closer towards me. His snores reverberated in my ear while everyone sent him a pitted look. "Here, I'll take him to where the other children are while you get caught up on the situation," Christy told me, gently picking the boy from my shoulder. I nodded while she did so, and I looked at Kyle expectantly. "I grabbed this," Nathan told me before handing over Mianna. "Thanks," I told him, slipping the knife into my combat boot. "Now, who wants to fill me in?" Chapter 19. Well, they have blocked all entrances into the woods. A couple got into the territory, and that's probably how that mother got poisoned. We'll have someone check into that. We've already come up with our strategy. It consists of careful and large border patrols and fighting together. We will take the front attackers, and Ryan's pack will support us, Kyle told me, referring to our pack and Ryan's. I nodded my head as I ran the strategy through in my mind. What is going to happen to the boy? What about help from neighboring packs? They have to have had problems with these rouges also, I asked Kyle. We asked the Grigori pack, but we haven't had any response from them. And the kid? He'll probably be put in the orphanage on the pack land, Kyle told me, running a hand through his hair, clearly frustrated. An eerie, run-down building filled with rats and crumbling walls ran through my mind. The rooms had a small window, an uncomfortable cot with no bedding except a scratchy thin blanket, dull gray walls, and concrete floor. The food had cockroaches piling out of it, and the entertainment was watching 2 rats fighting over cheese. I had been sent there after my family died while my siblings were taken into the pack house. I stayed there for 3 years until I was taken to the pack house to be their servant. No child had been there longer than 5 minutes before being adopted except me. A family would take them in, knowing that the orphanage was not fit for a child, but the place left them with recurring nightmares and chills. It had taken me years to get used to the awful place. My mind rushed to find a way out for the child while I followed Kyle and Nathan over to a table. I didn't want to adopt the child. He needed parents, not a single parent who raised him. I wouldn't be fit for the job with all the assignments I was handed, anyway. I was rarely at the house for more than a month before being gone for 3. The little guy needed someone who could be there and help him through the memories of his dying mom. Couples ran through my head as I tried to find one who would love to have him and was suited to raise the little guy. Mary and Henry crossed my mind, and I knew it was a perfect match. They couldn't have a child after Mary miscarried. There was something about it being too dangerous for her. They had yearned so badly for a child and were searching for a way to fill that empty piece of their life. Hey, I know the orphanage on the Packlands, and it's not fit for any child. Sure, most aren't there for more than 5 minutes, but it still leaves recurring nightmares. Why don't we take him with us and let Mary and Henry adopt him? They would love the little guy. He could be raised in the arts of fighting and become a big help when he becomes older. I reasoned with Kyle, hoping that he would agree with my proposal. Kyle pondered on the thought for a couple of minutes, thinking about the pros and cons for the pack. He had to choose what was best for the pack. Fine, Kyle told me. Mary and Henry have been thinking about adopting, but it's kind of difficult to find a werewolf child without parents. Most of them don't live if their parents die or are immediately adopted by someone in their pack. I think they'll be thrilled about the little guy, Nathan added to the conversation as Christy walked up. Are we talking about Trey? She asked, sitting down on the bench next to me. Who's Trey? Your imaginary boyfriend, Jace teased, leaning across the table towards her with a smirk. You hang out way too much with my brother, she told him, narrowing her eyes and giving him a you are an idiot look. Anyways, no, Trey is the little boy. Patrick is my imaginary boyfriend, she told him, answering his question, flipping her long hair over her hot pink tank top that only accentuated the dark tan that she had attained. Jake rolled his eyes as Jace leaned back, astonished at her reply. "You'll get used to her weirdness after a while," Jake told Jace, patting his back. Jace turned and stared at him, with wide eyes and an open mouth. "You mean she's like that all the time?" Jace asked in a scared tone. "Enough. Focus, guys, we need to save this pack," Call told us, irritated, rubbing his forehead. Cole agreed with a grim look covering his face. Cole opened his mouth when a howl in the distance sounded, making the area eerily quiet. Thankfully, all the children and the people who were not fighting had already been put in the safe haven while we gathered around to wait. "Everyone shift and follow us," Kyle ordered, standing up and stripping off his clothes. People rushed and nervously ripped off their clothes before shifting into different colored wolves. I shifted after peeling off my clothes and putting Mianna in my holster, shaking my snow-white fur before letting out a loud howl. My pack joined me while Ryan stared at us dumbfounded and shifting from side to side. That was the only warning we gave before bolting over to the area where the patrol's howl had come from. The sound of hundreds of feet thumping on the ground behind me and the feel of wind flying through my fur sent me into excitement. We closed in on the area and saw the border patrol growling towards the trees while backing away from us. Wolves walked out from behind the trees one by one in slow motion, making me feel like I was in some Hollywood movie drama. A movie like New Moon or Underworld. These Rouges had definitely watched too many of those movies and read too many werewolf books. The leader was clearly defined by standing in the front and sending us all a dominant look. He was a rusty brown wolf with a strong build. His cold blue eyes sneered down on us as two wolves came to stand beside him. Adrenaline slowly pumped through my veins, and I crouched low, ready to lunge forward and attack. Ryan snarled at them and stepped forward slightly to stand next to Kyle. The leader glanced between Ryan and Kyle, studying them both. A howl ripped through the very dark night, signaling an advance. Wolves rushed toward each other with snapping mouths and growls. I ran to the middle of the wolves and pulled a gray wolf off of one of Ryan's members. The gray wolf snapped his blood-covered teeth towards me before lunging towards me. I dipped below his open mouth and gripped the front of his throat. I shook my head around until the body weighed down on my back and I knew the wolf was dead. Letting go, I got out from below the shifting body and looked around for my next target. In the distance, I saw a large wolf growling at a small, whimpering wolf that backed away. Quickly, I shifted, grabbed Mianna from my holster, and threw it at the growling wolf. It flew through the air and hit the wolf in the stomach. The wolf that had been whimpering had relief flowing through her body in a shiver and went to support someone instead of taking on a wolf on her own. Suddenly, I was lying on rocks with a snarling snout on my face. I cringed back from the opening teeth and saw blood dripping down a sandy fur snout. The wolf had cold eyes that showed no hesitation in what it was thinking of doing. I shifted back into my wolf form in the hope that he would be pushed off my larger body. When my wolf opened its eyes, it showed a clearer vision of the snarling wolf. It was as close as ever, if not closer, and growled with fury at me. I growled right back and pushed my paws onto his chest to throw him off. He flew off me and onto the ground with a short bark. He bolted to his legs and snarled at me again. Snarling back, I lunged at him and tried to grip his neck in my mouth. With no luck in that area, I snapped at his feet and caught one of his paws in my mouth. Whipping my head up, I sent the wolf to the ground belly up. A large black wolf tore out his throat and growled, looking around at the Rouges. Rolling my eyes at Nathan, who had stolen my kill, I went over to the dead wolf that held Mianna in its stomach. I shifted and pulled the knife out swiftly before putting it back in the holster. I shifted back and got ready to attack the next wolf that came running my way. His rusty brown fur and cold blue eyes told me immediately who he was. Nathan fought another black wolf and sent me a worried glance when he saw the leader coming towards me, but I was ready for the fight and clenched my muscles in anticipation. Suddenly, a large black wolf stood between the leader and me, too large to be Nathan, but one that I recognized immediately. An alpha howl ripped through his chest and seemed to shake the ground with the fury it held. The rogue leader sent one of its own, but it had no match against Ryan's. Ryan slowly started to walk in a large circle as the rogue slowed down and mimicked Ryan by walking in the circle. Great! Another cliché moment from Hollywood, I thought with a frustrated growl. Chapter 20. The area was full of growls and wasn't like in the books, where it became hushed, and everyone watched the fight. No, the chaos continued as everyone fought, growls and whimpers of pain filling the air. Ryan and Rusty, the rogue leader's new nickname, circled each other, barking and snapping. Rusty inched a little closer to the inside of the circle, a sign that he was about to lunge at Ryan. Seconds later, Rusty did as I had predicted, and Ryan faced him with teeth bared. Ryan rushed forward at the last second, and everything became a blur of fur. I hesitated to walk away from the two and find someone to help, unsure if I should stay and help Ryan. He is fighting the leader, but then again, he is an alpha himself. Alphas did not like to be helped in a physical fight, especially from their mate, except in certain situations. Those situations were, the alpha was severely injured, and even then, this one could still be iffy. They had a large number of opponents, but even then, the mate was only supposed to fight the easiest ones, or they were in an unusual situation. Sexist, if you ask me, but this was definitely not one of those times. The adrenaline that I had at the beginning of the fight was slowly draining from me, leaving me to use my own energy. My paws shuffled away from the blurry mass, and I gave one more glance before going to help someone. Running towards the large group of wolves, I pounced on one of the rogues from behind. He became unconscious as I bit into his neck, holding it tightly. The body shifted back to its human form slowly, and I saw a young boy who looked like he was 10. His brown curly hair fell against his face as I sat him down gently on the dirt. He was young and must have been forced to fight, I thought, and my wolf nodded in agreement. I moved on to the next wolf and kept doing the same thing, pouncing on wolves until they died or became unconscious. Suddenly, the Rouges slowly formed a line, retreating back into the forest. A gray wolf ran behind them with a limp, rusty wolf on its back, stopping to let out a loud howl before running out of sight. The Rouges quickly followed suit as we chased them out of the territory. Ryan must have beaten Rusty pretty badly, but how badly did he get hurt? Once we concluded that they were all out of the territory, we made arrangements to count our numbers and what to do with the unconscious Rouges. Ryan counted his numbers and was missing no one, which seemed too good to be true. Kyle counted us and recounted several times that one of us was missing. I glanced around at all the wolves and saw everyone but Jake. Letting out a whine, Christy searched with wide, worried eyes, taking small steps. A tiny whine was heard in the distance, and her tail wagged to one side as she bolted towards the sound. I followed her and was joyed to see Christy snuggling into her brother's wolf's neck in human form. Jake's wolf lay on the floor, only lifting its head to rub against her shoulder. Cole rushed over and gently pushed Christy to the side so he could look at Jake's wounds. There was a large tooth wound on his stomach and claws running down his back. Jake cringed and snapped his snout towards Cole in warning when Cole almost touched the claw marks. He'll be fine. He just needs to rest for a while. Nathan, come over here and help me pick him up, Cole ordered. Nathan ran over, shifting into his human form as he did so and picked up Jake's wolf with Cole on the count of 3. Christy shuffled next to them with tears streaming down her face as she looked at her brother while we walked to the pack's medic room. While we walked, a movement caught my eye and a small whimper followed it. The brown curly hair swept across his face as he sat up, worriedly looking at his surroundings. A guttural growl filled the air as the young boy's eyes were frightened with fear at his situation. One of Ryan's enforcers crept toward us, baring his teeth at the little boy, and was clearly not going to take mercy on him. Hesitating, I threw my body in front of the boy and snarled at the enforcer. Taken aback, the enforcer was clearly unsure of what he was supposed to do. A small hand gripped my tail and pulled lightly on it. I shifted my sight to see the little boy pleading with me with his eyes to take mercy on him, to let him live. Tears fell down the little boy's face while Kyle talked to the enforcer. "We can take him back with us, but you're going to have to watch him, Dylan. You will be responsible if he does anything. Are you sure you want to take him?" Kyle tasked me, knowing my decision when I had jumped in front of the boy. I gave a glance to the boy who looked between me and Kyle before nodding my head. "Why do you always find them?" my wolf asked me, and my luck. I shook my head, not knowing either, as we headed back to the pack house. The little boy sat on my back, gripping my fur tightly as he looked at the surroundings. Who knows, this brown curly-headed boy might grow on me. "I think I'll take him in as my assistant if he doesn't prove trustworthy." "Thanks," a tiny voice told me from above. I nodded my snout, letting the boy know that I heard him. When we finally arrived, the little boy slipped off my back and waited while I shifted and changed into clothes. Checking the puncture wound on his neck that I gave him, I saw that it had already started to heal and new skin was forming. I checked the rest of his body and came up with nothing. The boy had quick regeneration. Kyle, Nathan, Cole, and Christy headed to the pack medic with Jake. Instead of following them into the room, which would be very crowded, I took the little boy up to my room. Opening the door, I took a step forward when a loud crunch filled my ears. Letting go of the boy's hand, I slipped down and grabbed a piece of paper that held a scribble of handwriting on it. The boy wandered around the room and picked up a bag of Skittles. He looked at me with puppy dog eyes, longing to have some of my Skittles. I nodded my head, smiling, and lay down on the bed, opening up the crumpled note. "Dear Dylan, I know that you are probably furious with me, which I completely deserve. I'm sorry. I also understand, now, that a sorry does not fix everything. I put my number down below. When and if you are ever ready to talk, call me, text me, or you know where I am. We could go out for dinner and talk it over, whatever you want. 556-789-0981 Ryan." I threw the note away from me and onto the floor immediately. A small frown appeared on my face as I looked out the window. He should have known from the beginning that a sorry wouldn't have fixed our situation. That it wouldn't make me forgive him. Just because a person says sorry, you don't have to forgive them. And even if you do forgive them, everything isn't going to be fixed just like that. A simple word with 5 letters doesn't have that much power. Irritation filled my body at the thought. Sighing, I glanced out the window again, trying to find a way to relieve my irritation. The sun was setting, so I waved the little boy over and opened the cover so he could climb in. We lay there in the bed face to face. He strongly smelled of Skittles and candy as he breathed slow, deep breaths. His bright blue eyes looked very observant and mischievous, like Cole had been teaching him how to do that. "My name's Dylan," I told him as we continued our stare down. "Jonathan," he replied, giving me a large grin. I smiled back at him as he turned his back and cuddled up next to me. This little guy was definitely gonna grow on me, I thought, as all the irritation that I had slipped away. My eyes closed slowly, sending me into a deep, peaceful slumber. Chapter 21, waking up with a body on top of me, was a whole new experience and something that shocked me. I ran my fingers through the silky brown hair, rubbing my foot unconsciously against the sheets. Jonathan's head lay on my belly, and he had a string of drool dripping down from his mouth. Warm air from his soft snoring breathed onto my stomach as the dangle of spit dangerously hung closer to me, swinging side to side from his breath. He had wrapped his hands around my neck and was clenching them together tightly as if he was making sure that I wasn't going to leave. I picked up a loose sheet corner and rubbed the hanging spit off. His small body squirmed as his head moved upwards towards my hand. My hand ran through his hair again, making him settle down as I decided how to get him off me. "Need help?" Nathan's deep voice asked me, a chuckle hiding in his tone. My hand twitched with the urge to slap off the face that was probably gracing his face. "Oh no, of course not. I plan on staying like this until he gets up. I replied, frowning at the idiocy of the question, my arms falling out from me as I sighed in anticipation of Jonathan's weight being taken off. Oh, in that case, I'll be leaving. Have a nice time lying there, Nathan said. I could practically hear the grin on his face. If you dare leave me here, Nathan, I will never speak to you again, I told him, pausing before continuing on to my next threat. Let alone sharing my Skittles. Those are rarely even shared with people that I talk to. Oh well, it isn't like you are going to be getting any with the way you are acting right now. I sighed dramatically, enhancing my threat. Jonathan's weight was lifted off of me and placed to the side as Nathan rushed. Standing up, I stretched my sides and arms before walking over to my armoire. I grabbed a pair of black shorts, a purple sports bra, and a misty green, loose-fitting tank top. Nathan sat on the bed, scratching Jonathan's back as I went and got changed in the bathroom. When I walked out, Jonathan was awake and having an intense stare down with Nathan. They were both sitting crisscross applesauce on the bed and facing each other. Their eyes stared widely at each other as if they were looking at some new species, not that they were human. Truthfully, it was a bit weird and was tempting me to walk back into the bathroom and never come back out. To lock the door and blare some music while trying to wash the scene from my eyes. Gulping, I ignored the temptation, walking forward to the two until I stood next to the side of the bed with Nathan. Hesitantly, I tapped Nathan on the shoulder, feeling the soft material of his gray shirt. A shiver ran through his whole body, but he continued staring at Johnny. Nathan, what are you and Jonathan doing? I asked him in the hope that this scene would end. Complete silence was all I got for a response from him. Nathan, Jonathan, come on, let's go down and eat some breakfast and then see your skills. Johnny, I ordered them, yanking on Nathan's shirt and pulling him off the bed, my eyes rolling at the weirdos. To my surprise, Nathan fell back and tumbled me down with him to the ground. My back thumped hard against the wood floors, and Nathan lay on me with his limbs sprawled in every direction, groaning as if it hurt to fall on top of me. My eyes narrowed at the top of his head that had waviness poking out in every direction. Don't groan. I'm the one who hit the bare floor that is freezing, Nathan. I yelled at him, giving him a good thwack on the head. His hand instinctively went to his head as he tried to cover the part one hit him, like it would dull the pain. That hurt, Dylan. Don't do that, he whines while getting off on top of me. I rolled my eyes, waiting for him to gain balance and help me off the floor. A hand appeared in front of me, and I grabbed, pulling myself off the ground. Jonathan watched us with curious eyes as if our every movement was essential for his discovery. He kept glancing back and forth at us, still in the position when I had fallen with Nathan on top of me. Are you two dating? Jonathan asked, narrowing his eyes at Nathan, confused. My mouth flopped open and closed, my cheeks flushing as I tried to find a way to answer the question. We were not dating, but there was definitely something going on. My mouth flopped back open as I found a way to answer. Yep, we're dating, Nathan replied, picking up Jonathan and setting him on his shoulders. So, I'll be helping take care of you with Dylan. My eyes widened in astonishment as my brain went on overdrive, smoke probably steaming from my ears. Now, come on, let's go eat some of Dylan's monkey bread. It tastes really good, and we'll have her make us some, Nathan finished, reaching the door and pulling it open. His head turned towards me, and I saw a soft smile on his lips and a twinkle in his eyes as he nodded for me to come on. When did I say that I would cook? I asked, smiling, rushing to catch up with them. Nathan whispered something upwards to Jonathan that I could not hear. Jonathan's head swiveled towards me, lips pouting, eyes filled with sadness, eyebrows creased with worry, the perfect puppy dog face. Words rushed past my lips quickly before my brain could understand what I was saying. High five, bud, Nathan told Jonathan, reaching his palm upwards. Jonathan gave it a hard slap, grinning widely and telling Nathan to walk quicker. What I said, I will never know, but what I do know is that somehow I had got pulled into making them breakfast. Chapter 22 Monkey Bread Recipe Ingredients: half a cup granulated sugar, 1 teaspoon cinnamon, 2 cans, 16.3 ounces each of Pillsbury Grands. Home-style refrigerated buttermilk biscuits, 1 cup firmly packed brown sugar, 3/4 cup butter or margarine, melted. Steps 1. Heat oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Lightly grease a 12-cup fluted tube pan with shortening or cooking spray. In a large storage plastic food bag, mix granulated sugar and cinnamon. 2. Separate dough into 16 biscuits, cut each into quarters. Shake in bag to coat. Arrange in pan, adding walnuts and raisins among the biscuit pieces. 3. In a small bowl, mix brown sugar and butter. Pour over biscuit pieces. 4. Bake for 28 to 32 minutes or until golden brown and no longer doughy in the center. Cool in pan for 10 minutes. Turn upside down onto the serving plate. Pull it apart to serve. Serve warm. A simple recipe that I had done many times in this kitchen and the one back home. I grabbed and placed the ingredients out. Nathan and Jonathan sat on stools that sat in front of the bar counter, watching with excitement and impatiently. I could practically see their wolves wagging their tails. A giggle escaped from my mouth at the thought as I finished doing the prepping. Separating the dough, I threw it into the plastic baggie and shook it around as the oven preheated. Suddenly, music filled my ears, and I glanced to the side to see Nathan next to the radio. I hadn't even seen him get up, which was surprising since he was sitting right in front of me. Nathan slowly walked over back to his seat and sat down, taking out his iPhone. Jonathan's gaze and attention slowly shifted towards the home and away from me as I set the monkey bread in the oven to cook. Dings came from Nathan's phone and made me stare at intensely focused Nathan, who was playing a game. Seconds later, Nathan's hand hit the table in frustration, matching his aggravated face. I immediately caught my curiosity about what stupid game he was playing now. "Go, Birdie, go." "Flap, just flap," Jonathan yelled at the phone in what I think was encouragement. Nathan kept playing, dying a lot from all the fist pounding with the table until he shot his hand up in fist form with an excited look. "Sweet, sweet, sweet victory, yeah," Nathan sang, bringing his fist down in front of his closed eyes. Nodding my head, I confirmed that it was just one of the idiotic games that he would get over in a week, calling it the most stupid game ever to be invented. A ding came from the oven, and I scurried over to it and opened the door before pulling out the batch of monkey bread. Steam rose from the delicious smell, making my mouth water and Nathan and Jonathan's heads swivel in my direction. Nathan immediately dropped his phone as I walked over and set it down in front of them. 2 hands, for fingers, stretched towards the monkey bread. Instinctively, I swatted their hands away from it and narrowed my eyes at both of them. "No touching." "I'm going to go grab plates and a serving spoon," I ordered both of them, pointing my fingers at both of them in warning. I turned my back and grabbed glass plates from the white cupboard with glass doors. Pulling on the drawer beneath it, I pulled out a serving spoon and walked back to the two. Nathan and Jonathan had the same innocent look plastered on their faces, which immediately made my eyes dart down to the monkey bread. 2 clear handfuls made a hole in the platter I had sat down on, full of bread. Smiling, I slowly raised my eyes to the 2 squirming idiots who obviously thought I was an idiot. Idiots. Gently, I sat down on the things I had gotten and picked up the bread. Then I rushed out of the room with the platter, and the scraping of chairs followed my exit from the kitchen. As I climbed up the stairs, loud footsteps followed me and were gaining on me. Bursting down the hallway that held portraits and into my room, I locked the door. My wide eyes surveyed the room as I checked for anyone or anything that could hinder my plan. Like Cole, he was evil. I nodded my head. Yes, he was very evil. Must stay away from that guy. Luckily, he wasn't in the room. No one was. I sank down the locked door as pounding fists sounded. Yeah, because I was going to let those idiots in. I rolled my eyes at the idea of that thought. The 2 of them were so alike that I should have known that they would eat my precious monkey bread without waiting for plates and silverware. That's why I ran, They deserved punishment, and I was going to give them that by not letting them have one more bite. Please let us in. We just want some more. We're sorry. We have learned our lesson. Dylan, they both whined, scarily in sync with each other. Yep, they were exactly alike, almost like twins. Digging into the monkey bread, I ate in a hurry. It melted in my mouth as the taste of cinnamon, sugar, and brown sugar dominated my mouth. Moans came from my mouth as I licked the empty platter. That was really good. I stood up, opened the door, and smiled at the sight of Jonathan and Nathan trying to lock my door with a twig. They definitely were not the brightest bunch of colors in the crayon box. Their eyes widened in terror as they looked at the cinnamon and sugar that coated my cheeks and mouth. You didn't, Nathan voiced. You wouldn't have, Jonathan followed. I shrugged my shoulders and dropped the empty platter into their lap. By the way, what game were you playing earlier? I asked, placing my hand on my cocktim, one of my eyebrows also raised in curiosity. Flappy Bird, Nathan and Jonathan croaked. Chapter 23, what's that? I asked the two, my hands slapping over my mouth as if it would take back the question. The question that would for sure have a drawn-out answer that lasted 2 hours of explaining from Nathan. Sure enough, it came seconds later from Oompa Loompa's mouth. The temptation to bang my head against the table came in a matter of seconds after he opened his mouth. Instead, I saved myself from getting a bruise, turning away from the two and starting down the hallway, escaping from Nathan's blabbering. Well, that was the plan, at least. The tapping of feet followed me as I wandered around the house. So, what's the plan with the Rouges, and who is investigating the case about Trey's mother? I asked Nathan. There's a meeting in an hour where we train. I was given the task of dragging you there, he replied. Why would you have to drag me? I would go willingly, I asked, a confused frown forming on my face. Because I feel like it. Because you feel like it? Really, Nathan? Because that answers my question so well. I shook my head at him. He could be such a 2-year-old. If he continues to rub off on Jonathan like he has been, it's going to be scary for the rest of my life. Because I feel like it, I mumble, mimicking Nathan. Don't do that, he told me strictly. For a second, I thought he was serious. Just for 1 second, then his whole face twitched as he tried to contain his laughter. Laughter, probably because of the way I looked back at him like he was insane, which he was. I chuckled, agreeing with my thoughts. Nathan was utterly insane, not that I should be talking or anything. Y'all are weirdos, Jonathan stated, like he had found the answer to the mystery of life. Yeah, Nathan and I, the mystery of life. That's a good one. I shook my head. It was being too random today and just weird. It was jumping to other topics like stepping stones to complete insanity, somewhere that I had not yet reached. My finger came up as I figured out the reason why it was like that. My period was coming soon. The thought made my stomach cringe. Periods are one of the worst things for girls. We bleed out for a week. An entire week. Now, some girls were lucky and only had it for 3 or 4 days, but No, I had it for the complete 7 days. With those terrible 7 days came emotions that could not be controlled. 1 second, I would be bumping off the walls in happiness, and the next second, I would be curled up in a corner, bawling my eyes out. I rubbed my head to stop the ache that came from just thinking about it. Nathan and Jonathan were going to be in for the time of their lives when it came. Sure, Nathan had experienced it before, but Jonathan had not. Oh well, he's going to have to experience it sometime. It might as well be now. 45 minutes late, having fun and playing stupid games like Flappy Bird and Fun Run, we walked to the training center for the meeting. Everyone was there and crowded around my pack and their alpha and beta, leaving one large hole for them to walk around in. Pushing my way through, I walked to stand next to Kyle as Nathan and Jonathan stood next to Christy. Minutes later, the meeting began as Kyle explained how a large group was going to attack the rogues tonight, while a smaller one stayed back with the people who were not fighting to protect them. Ryan talked about the procedures we would be taking, making eye contact with me for a second before I tore my gaze away from him. I could feel the sigh go through his body, but it was not let it out. When the meeting was over, Nathan and Jonathan walked back with me to grab our things. Once we hit the hallway, Nathan turned towards his room, which was in the opposite direction from ours. "So, what do I need to bring with me?" Jonathan asked when we arrived at my room. My eyes narrowed in surprise at his question. "What do you mean, what do you need to bring?" "Anything that will keep you entertained while we are gone." "While y'all are gone?" "No, I'm going with you," Jonathan stated with a stern, unrelenting gaze. "No, you are staying back. These people know you. They might try to take you back. I won't allow you to go. In fact, I forbid it," I ordered him, cringing once I was done at how motherly I sounded. A frown settled on his gaze, but he didn't argue with me, holding it back and acting with manners. I left Mianna behind, deciding that I would stay in wolf form. When I walked out the door with Nathan, Jonathan had still not uttered a single word. He only did once Nathan stepped over the brown threshold. "Be careful," he told us, looking at Nathan before closing the large oak door. Nathan nodded his head, although Jonathan couldn't see him. Grabbing my hand, Nathan dragged me towards the meeting place Kyle had designated, the tree lean. I rolled my eyes, knowing he was pulling me now because he hadn't done it on the way to the meeting. Men and women clothed in black greeted us with serious facial expressions. They were ready and focused for the fight like they should be. Some of them would die, and they knew this. The mission was too risky to result in any deaths. Well, unless they worked together a lot and looked after each other. Kyle waved us over, looking like the other except for the black cap that hung over his hair. "Are y'all ready?" he asked us, gazing into the woods where the Rouges camped and were nursing their wounds. Our heads nodded in sync, our gaze following his deep into the mystic woods. Kyle turned, and with a wave of his and Ryan's hands, we all stood in our wolf form. A growl rippled through our large group. Kyle would burst from the group and lead, with Ryan catching up. Chasing after our leaders, we pushed our heads through the wind, our paws directing us past trees, our noses leading us to our prey, our hearts going crazy with anticipation, our mouths opening to taste their scent. And lastly, our eyes showed fearlessness of the upcoming battle. Chapter 24. Our feet pounded across fallen leaves and twigs as we rushed forward towards the group. Macy's wolf bolted past me with her mate chasing after her. I let out a soft bark, warning them not to go too far and to stay within the group. Their pace slowed, and Rouge, Alpha Jake, walked beside her, brushing his fur along hers in an intimate gesture. Tearing my gaze off them, I watched the way leaves flew off the ground and up into the sky, whisking out of sight. Kyle slowed down rapidly and let out a warning growl for us to follow suit. I walked beside him and stared at the campsite in an open field, plain to sight. Yellow tents were pitched up and a fire pit was built in the center. The placement looked like the camp for Girl Scouts. Too bad they weren't, or I would be getting myself some Thin Mints. Ryan growled and led the way, creeping low to the ground as we snuck up on the camp. A growl to the right of us let me know that we had been spotted. Pouncing up and over to the rogue, I twisted his neck in my teeth in my mouth. A whimper fell from his mouth as he tumbled to the ground. Falling back into the group, I hoped that the rogue hadn't had time to mind link. Alarms sounded around the camp, letting me know that my hope had been in vain. The wolf had definitely mind-linked someone in his pack, probably someone high up, like the leader. We popped up like daisies sprouting suddenly. Our eyes scanned and watched wolves come out of tents, like an angry wasp that had its nest bothered. Kyle rushed forward and attacked the closest rogue, killing it quickly. I let my wolf take over, rolling my neck in readiness. What felt like movements later was probably more like hours. My wolf gave me control, giving me back my body. All around me lay dead, bloody bodies, and the grass was sprayed with blood and fur. Then my eyes shifted to a bruised man with his cheek deeply cut and blood splattered across his face, being held up straight by Ryan. Ryan stared at him with pure venom, searching his face for some proof of who he was. Although I had a good idea of exactly how important he was, I met cold, calculating eyes. They stared at the sight of me, and I had my proof then. He was the rogue leader. Rusty was what I called him, and I will continue calling him. He was forced to stand on his knees. An old piece of rope bound his hands together. His eyes were filled with anger, telling us that he would not back down. Kyle strode up to him with a knife in his hand, the deadly look he always had when he was about to kill the leader. Stopping in front of him, he stabbed the knife into Rusty's thigh before snapping his neck. The leader tumbled to the ground, staring blankly into the forest, no sip of life being shown. The rogue pack was destroyed and their camp was burned to the ground. Human bodies were scattered across the field, blood covering their wounds. Then I looked at who remained in my group. Christy, Cole, Nathan, Jace, and everyone who was in my pack survived. The numbers had dwindled a little. I looked around for Alpha Jake and Macy and found them in their wolf forms, licking each other's coats. I breathed out a sigh of relief, knowing that they were safe. Time to head back, Call told us, turning away from the bodies after pulling his knife out of Rusty. He cleaned the blade on the grass as we all shifted back to our wolves, ready to go home and rest. Ryan bolted into the forest, and we followed, jumping over fallen trees and branches silently. Once we reached the tree line next to the house, we changed into our clothes as families ran out of the pack house, looking for someone in our large group. Hugs were initiated across the group, and a figure ran into my legs, holding my knees together. I swayed back and forth, trying to find my sense of balance, my arms stretched outwards and eyes wide in shock. Glancing down once I had gained it, I saw messy brown hair nestling into my stomach. I smiled and ruffled Jonathan's hair, his hair becoming even crazier. His eyes bore into mine as if searching for any injury in them. Afraid I wasn't coming back, I asked him, cocking my head, which made my hair sweep against my arm. He stayed silent, resting his cheek against my black shirt. "We'll be leaving soon. You'll get to see my home," I told him as I softly pushed him off of me and grabbed his hand, leading him back to my room. Nathan caught up to us and took Jonathan's other hand, smiling down at him. I still had not talked to Nathan about the whole relationship thing. When we reached the door, I could feel someone's eyes burning holes into my back. Glancing back, I saw Ryan looking at me before looking toward the pack house and walking to it. I let out a sigh as I stepped over the threshold, thinking that I would be getting away from him soon, and then we could just get over each other. He would forget about me eventually, but hopefully not the lesson he learned. Jonathan pulled me up the stairs and into my room, an excited look on his face making me worry. Nathan pushed open the door, the same worried look on his face. The door swept open, revealing a room that held 100 bags of Skittles lying on my dresser, bed, floor, and closet. Christy came and brought me them, telling me that you would like it, Jonathan explained to my awe-shocked face. Chapter 25. Flopping on my bed, I groaned and let my stomach puff out in fullness, dying for some room to store all the Skittles I had devoured. Nathan and Jonathan followed, giving out their own groans. We probably looked pitiful, groaning with our stomachs, looking like they were about to burst. Nathan's head rolled so he could give me an innocent kid smile. I smiled back, rubbing my stomach in satisfaction. Cole pushed open the door, leaning against the frame with a smirk on his face. The mischievous look on his face told me that my Skittle was going to be stolen. "What's going on here?" he asked, stepping into the room, fingering a bag of Skittles on the entry table next to the door. His eyes glanced at the bag as he snatched it up and put it in his hoodie pocket. "I'll be keeping that for later." "Don't worry, you won't even notice that it is gone," he told me, walking out the door. I knew it, I thought. Well, there goes one bag of perfection. One delicious bag of yumminess, I told my group, my mouth watering at the thought of Skittles, my eyes skimming over countless bags of Skittles. Wild berry. Regular. So many of them were scattered across the room. I think it will be okay. After all, it is just one bag, Jonathan told me. My head swiveled over to the boy, eyes narrowing. That one bag is one more bag of deliciousness. It will be okay, he told me, confident and sure. Nathan let out a sigh and closed his eyes, resting his head on the pillow above him. How can you say I started it, Jonathan, getting ready for the argument that was brewing. Okay, how about we stop this before it turns into bickering? We are all tired and should rest, Nathan interrupted, pulling us both into him. My mouth opened to argue, gaining me a look from Nathan. A rough but soft hand closed my mouth, resting there for a moment before sliding to my arm. Go to sleep, he told me, wrapping me into his chest with one arm. Soft snores sounded from an open mouth. Sleeping, Jonathan. How did he fall asleep so quickly? I'll never know. That kid must have an on and off switch. A loud snort rumbled through Nathan's chest, probably laughing at Jonathan. A sudden sleepiness fell over me as I decided to snuggle into Nathan's chest, resting my head on it and closing my eyes. Nathan's hands rubbed my hair affectionately as I fell into a deep slumber. One last thought ran through my head to ask Nathan what he meant about our relationship. Were we actually dating? How had I missed him asking that question? I sat in the game room, playing Dragon Age Origins. At the moment, my character, Desiree, was talking to Alistair. I chose answers quickly, wanting to get onto the killing of Darkspawn part. Sure, Alistair was hot and all, but I was in the mood to kill. I was not in the mood to get a rose from him, but I gave all the correct answers and gained points from him. Die Darkspawn, I yelled a moment later as I faced the ogre. I twisted around in real life, hoping that it would help me slay the large monster. Alistair jumped up and pressed his sword into his chest repeatedly. Stupid Alistair, stealing my kill, I grumbled, running around to collect things from sparkly objects. Dylan. I found you, Jonathan yelled, making me glance at his position next to the living room entry. Congrats. It is really hard to find me, not like you can hear my verbal frustrations from a mile away. Yeah, it was a big giveaway, Nathan replied, coming out of nowhere and rubbing his eyes roughly. He stretched his arms, his white t-shirt sleeves rolling up to his shoulders and rising past his gray sweats that hung low, showing a tan, muscled stomach. My fingers itched to run over them, to feel the warmth. I shook my head, bewildered by the thought. Where had it come from and why? Maybe it was because he told Jonathan that we were dating. I definitely had an attraction for him, I decided, a shocked feeling going through me. A nervous meltdown went through me as I tried to figure out what to do. What to say. What to think. Nathan strode over to me and picked up my body before sitting down with my body molding to sit on his. Jonathan stumbled over and jumped onto the couch, resting his head on my lap. Nathan's hand came into view, palm up in invitation for the remote. I'll play for you if you want, he told me. I handed the remote to him, no words uttered from my mouth. Die Genlock, Nathan yelled, giving me a wave of déjà vu. We were so alike in this category. A giggle came from my mouth at the thought that Nathan fought against dark spawns and wolves. Hours later, Cal entered the room, giving news that was both good and bad. We were going home. Chapter 26. The news sent shivers of delight down my body. We were finally going home. I would get to see Darlin and Kate again. We had our occasional text messages, but they weren't enough. They were nowhere close to our shopping expenditures. Even if I detested the activity, it was our bonding time. The times they would drag me into stores and force me to try on things again and again. My eyes narrowed into slits, a cringe going through my spine. Maybe I didn't miss those times. Yeah, I definitely didn't miss expenditures. But leaving also meant that I would be leaving my brother and sister. I would rarely see my brother again, maybe during holidays and birthdays. Macy, however, I would be able to see at the monthly meetings for all high-ups in the packs. They weren't mandatory, but we always made an effort to go. We would meet every third week to resolve disputes and simply converse with each other to strengthen our relationships. But Derek would never be able to go unless his mate was someone important. I would miss them both dearly. Nathan and Jonathan were practically bouncing off the walls. They definitely had nothing holding them back from leaving like I did. I also needed to take care of one thing before I left: Ryan. I needed to stop running. It was time to face my past and overcome it like a big hurdle. Standing, Nathan stopped bouncing everywhere, alert to my movement. His eyes narrowed, staring at me with curiosity. "Where are you going?" he asked me, voicing the curiosity and something I had not detected in his eyes, concern. "There's something I need to do." "Don't worry, I'm not gonna wax your bedroom's floor," I replied, referring to the last time we were leaving after we completed the mission. Now, that was a good prank. Nathan walked into his room, and, like stepping on a banana peel, he gave the floor one big kiss. That wasn't even the best part, though. Next thing you know, Cole walks in yelling about some missing spoon and slides across the room, sending the standing Nathan and him to the floor, tangled. I'm so glad I got that recorded. Christy and I had spent a week laughing over it and posted it on Facebook, showing off my amazingness. That wasn't funny. Cole gave me a serious bruise and couldn't get off of me. We were sprawled there for hours, groaning for someone to help us. To make matters worse, Cole had to poop, so I got big whiffs of fart with his, but in my face and all, Nathan replied, scowling like a 4-year-old. He looked so adorable, and as I walked by, I gave his head a rub and kissed his forehead. It will be all right, I told him, exiting the room with a smile on my face as Jonathan and Kyle laughed, taking it a little far by rolling on the floor and crying. A giggle left my mouth as I pictured Nathan's side of the story. Cole and he were stuck on the floor, trying to get up. And then a fart to the face that stunk like a skunk. Yep, I'm definitely happy that I got that recorded. I strode to my room quickly, searching for the piece of paper that I had carelessly thrown on the floor. The piece of paper with Ryan's number on it. I searched the floor quickly with my eyes, coming up with nothing until a tiny white color was shown from under the bed. Walking over to the bed, I crouched down and snatched the paper off the floor, opening it while I walked over to my phone on the bedside table. Quickly, I typed in the number and pressed the green call button. I held the phone next to my ear, putting the note in my suitcase as I waited for him to pick it up. 7 rings went by when I was about to hang up in frustration. I tore the phone from my ear, and as my finger loomed over the end button, I heard a voice screaming hello. Ryan? It's me, Dylan, I responded, bringing the phone back to my ear. Silence answered me, and the only reason I knew someone was still on the phone was because of the deep breaths I heard. Ryan, I asked the temptation to hang up, coming back. Yeah, sorry, I'm just amazed that you called me. What's up? He asked, replying like we were childhood friends who hadn't seen each other for years. PSH, yeah, right. Childhood friends are more like childhood enemies. I thought I would talk to you before I left. You know, that way we can move on, I told him, rolling my eyes. I should never have called him. This was going to end in complete stupidity. Move on, huh, he echoed, obviously thinking over it. I bit my lip, trying to decide whether that was a little harsh, considering we were supposed to be mates. One voice told me it was, while a stronger one told me it was okay and that I needed to be straightforward. I listened to the stronger one, knowing that it was probably right, although the smaller one was being nice. Yeah, I told him, my voice becoming soft at the end. Well, go ahead and start the conversation. I want to hear what you have to say, Ryan replied, probably tousling his hair. Well, I'm not mad at you anymore, and I've decided to forget the past. We can be acquaintances, maybe even friends in the future, but nothing more. I think that we both need someone else, someone with whom we have no bad past relations. I'm sorry, Ryan, I told him, knowing that his heart must be breaking right now, just like mine had. It hurt, and as much as he might deserve it, I didn't want him to feel it. I understand and agree with you. Well, eventually I will. Goodbye, Ryan, I told him, a tearful sob stuck in my throat. Bye, Dylan, he told me before hanging up the phone. Taking the phone from my ear, I dropped it on my bed, swallowing the sob and putting it away and out of reach for now. Nathan swung the door open and reached out his arms for me, beckoning for me. I ran to them and jumped on him, probably looking like a newborn monkey. You did the right thing, Dylan. You faced your past and stopped running from it. I'm proud of you, honey, he whispered, rubbing my back with one hand and with the other. He ran his fingers through my hair. I nodded my head, my heart hurting as if it was being torn into a million pieces, the same as it had in the past. But this time, it wasn't mine, it was Ryan's. Epilogue 4 years later, Dylan, a voice yelled from the darkness. Turning, I looked for the owner of it, searching every crook and cranny. Gotcha, Nathan said, wrapping his arms around me and brushing my ear with his lips. A moan escaped from my lips, and in response, I felt a smirk and chuckle come from those same exasperating lips. Nathan and I became mates by marking each other. We were like any mated couple. We felt every emotion, had this special mind link, everything. All those years ago, when we were leaving the mission that dealt with Ryan's pack, we had talked about the whole relationship thing on the way back home with Jonathan, snoring in the back seat, cuddled up to my Simba pillow pet. I don't remember what was said, but I remember how it ended, us dating. Then, a year after that, we became mates who couldn't get enough of each other. And now, he was trying to impregnate me, which dealt with one step before mating. The female had to bite their mate's mark, which meant it depended on whether or not the she-wolf wanted to give birth, and then you mated. After not giving in to his pleading for weeks, I gave in last night and bit his mark. He was ecstatic and showered me with kisses when we had finished. Well, yeah. Anyway, in a week's time, we were going to see my sister, niece, and nephew, who were twins. Macy and Jake named them Alexander and Catherine. Mouthfuls, I know. That's why I shortened their names to Kate and Alex. They were spitballs of fire at the age of 2. Nathan continued his game with my body, making my heart skip several beats. Go find a cave or something, Christy told us, walking by us with a look of disgust gracing her features. Nathan's eyes sparkled with excitement at the idea of a cave. He had a weird fascination with them for some reason. Don't give him ideas, I yelled at Christy, pivoting to face Nathan. No. Get it out of your head. I'm not going to do it there. I hate caves, I ordered him. His eyes saddened, and his face drooped, slowly turning into his renowned puppy dog face. Please, he whined with a huge pout. Don't fall for it, Mom, Jonathan told me, walking into the hallway as I opened my mouth to tell Nathan that I wasn't going to do it no matter what. Instead, go make me some monkey bread. I'm dying for some. My eyes narrowed at him. He didn't really care what Nathan wanted. He just wanted some monkey bread. Monkey bread, Nathan said, the excitement coming back into his eyes. Oh, please, Dylan. Please, Nathan begged me, dropping down to his knees. Fine, I groaned, turning my gaze to stare at the wall, not happy. 2 bodies engulfed me, tackling me with hugs. Thanks. I love you, Dylan, Nathan told me, giving me a deep kiss. I love you too, Nathan, I told him, caressing his cheek before getting pulled by Jonathan and into the kitchen. Nathan's chuckles followed me. I had found my permanent family,